Chapter 75. Yu Yuan, why did the two of you come down again? Yen Lu frowned with a confused expression. Didn't you say that you would be our sentinel and warn us? The others also looked at Yu Yuan and Zhao Yafu, who had slid down from the sky, and found it strange. The person from Waning Moon City had his eyes closed, as if he was immersed in his own world of cultivation. I suddenly remembered something, Yu Yuan explained with a smile as he walked towards the trial taker from Waning Moon City. Midway, he asked Han Hui, Big Sister Han Hui, what's that person's name? Do you know him? He's called Zhu Huan. He's from Waning Moon City. Han Hui was stunned for a moment before saying, Feng Xian and Zhu Huan had a conflict with us because of a mural. Fortunately, I was more tactful and took the initiative to hand over the mural that we found first. Because of this, we didn't suffer any heavy casualties. The others naturally understood the meaning behind her words. They knew that Feng Xian was relying on Waning Moon City's strength to force her to take a step back. She originally harbored enmity towards Zhu Huan and Feng Xian. But now, according to Zhu Huan, he couldn't find any trace of Feng Xian after parting ways with her. Then, he happened to wander nearby and join the others. Everyone guessed that other than Zhu Huan, everyone in Waning Moon City, including Feng Xian, had met with misfortune. Since Waning Moon City had already fallen to such a state, Han Hui naturally wouldn't take the risk of hitting Zhu Huan when he was down. No matter how big the grudge was, they had to temporarily maintain unity and settle it after the threat of the enemy was eliminated. Oh, so you're called Zhu Huan. Yu Yuan nodded slightly. As he approached, he sized Zhu Huan up curiously. Big brother Zhu, have we met before? Zhu Huan, who had his eyes closed, opened them helplessly and looked at him with a confused expression. He said in a low voice, Why do you say that? Have we met before? No. Since you haven't seen him before, why do you want to kill me? The moment these words came out, many of the trial takers were alarmed. Yu Yuan was clearly stirring up trouble. I don't understand what you mean. Zhu Huan's expression was the same as usual. He even seemed a little numb. In the face of a great enemy, we should unite. Even if we have conflicts in the past, we should put them down. What's more, I don't even know you. I don't understand why you're picking on me. After pausing for a few seconds, Zhu Huan spoke again. Is it because something happened to the leader of Waning Moon City and I'm the only one left? Do you think I'm easy to bully when I'm alone? As soon as he said that, everyone looked at Yu Yuan with dissatisfaction. Of the many trial challengers in Waning Moon City, Zhu Huan was probably the only survivor. Yu Yuan wanted to stir up trouble and use this as a pretext to make a fuss. He really knew how to pick people. Ever since Zhu Huan fell into the pit, he had been rather quiet and did not participate in any disputes. In the eyes of others, he should still be in great pain and unable to be interested in anything. Many people sympathized with him. In this kind of situation, Yu Yuan actually wanted to find trouble with him. This immediately made people unhappy. After Li Yu left, the person in charge of the Li family, Li Yuan, finally couldn't bear it anymore and impatiently chased them away. Yu Yuan, Zhao Yafu, since you want to leave, then leave quickly. There's only one Zhu Huan left in Waning Moon City. No matter what your intentions are, please restrain yourself. Zhan Tianxiang said indifferently, the conflicts in the past are in the past. The most important thing now is to ensure our internal unity. Yu Yuan, we originally also had a grudge, but when I came down, I already told you to put it down for now. Su Yan also tried to persuade him. If we can put it down, then you should put it down too. Internal unity and stability are good for all of us. Don't stir up trouble at this time. The others all talked at once, either trying to persuade or threaten Yu Yuan to calm down. Sigh, there's not a single smart person. With a sigh, Yu Yuan threw one silver ball after another at Zhu Huan. The silver balls were the size of a fist. They were bright and dazzling. Silver iron profound bombs. Zhang Tianxiang's expression suddenly changed, and he suddenly shouted. The other people's expressions also changed, and they cursed at Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan, have you lost your mind? You're using silver iron profound bombs against him. You dare to break the rules of the forbidden area. The Yu family won't be able to bear the consequences. Although they were cursing, everyone who knew the power of the silver iron profound bombs retreated rapidly. Bang! A total of 4 silver iron profound bombs exploded at the same time. The fine silver light that filled the sky like a drizzle instantly drowned Zhu Huan. Zhu Huan didn't even have time to react before the silver light pierced through his flesh and blood. The silver iron profound bombs were secretly sent to him by Zhao Dongxing after he promised Zhao Zhenghao and Zhao Dongxing that he would look after Zhao Yafu during the trial in the forbidden area. The silver iron Xian bomb was not a conventional weapon. It was a consumable weapon that could only be used once. The forging process of the silver iron profound bombs was extremely complicated. Each silver iron profound bomb contained hundreds of silver electricity inside the silver ball. The so-called silver electricity was actually silver needles that were thinner than hair. The silver needles were designed to break all kinds of spirit power light screens and shields, and their penetrative power was amazing. If a silver iron profound bomb was used well, even a shattering profound realm cultivator could be hit by it and be badly mutilated by the silver electricity. If a cultivator below the shattering profound realm was penetrated by the silver electricity, even if they didn't die, they would be seriously injured. If 4 silver iron profound bombs exploded at the same time, even a shattering profound realm cultivator would be killed on the spot, let alone a cultivator below the shattering profound realm. Seeing the 4 silver iron profound bombs explode in an instant, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Li Yu, who was the strongest among the trial takers, would die suddenly after being attacked by 4 silver iron profound bombs and pierced by the silver needles? While they were in a daze, Zhao Yafu, who had already received the hint, let out a dragon's roar from her acupuncture points. A wisp of dim light flashed and disappeared. The dragon-shaped sharp blade was inserted into Zhu Huan's chest, nailing him to the stone wall behind him. After the 4 silver iron profound bombs, Zhao Yafu still attacked with all her strength because Yu Yuan had seriously warned her before she landed. At this moment, Zhu Huan was nailed to the stone wall by the dragon-shaped sharp blade. His whole body was badly mutilated, and he almost didn't look human anymore. He couldn't be more dead. No one expected that after Li Yuan, Su Yan, and the others all spoke up to stop, Yu Yuan still dared to launch an attack. He even used his trump card, the silver iron profound bombs, and detonated 4 of them at the same time. In addition, he also asked Zhao Yafu to cooperate and penetrate Zhu Huan's chest. Such a cruel and crazy act stunned everyone present for a moment, and they couldn't react. You killed Zhu Huan? After a long while, Li Yuan of the Li family seemed to understand what had happened. According to the rules of the forbidden area, no deaths are allowed in the first 4 months. Also, didn't I make it clear enough? When the enemy invades, we must unite. Do you understand what I'm saying? Unite. Li Yuan shouted himself hoarse. He only felt that his Li family's authority was ignored. Chapter 76. Zhu Huan was covered in blood. Zhao Yafu's dragon-shaped blade had pierced through his chest and nailed him to the wall behind him. No one could stop him in time. 4 silver iron profound bombs detonated at the same time. Who would dare to save him? Just like that, the crowd, who had failed to persuade him repeatedly, could only watch as Yu Yuan brutally and crazily killed Zhu Huan, the only survivor of Waning Moon City. Zhao Yafu had even stabbed him in the back after he had died. Her blade pierced through his heart and lungs. At the bottom of the pit, Li Yuan's exasperated curses caused everyone's eardrums to buzz. Yu Yuan, however, was unmoved. He ignored everyone's shocked reactions. Little sister Zhao, examine him carefully. Examine what? Zhao Yafa looked at the body that was riddled with holes, her eyes confused. She planned to walk over and put away the dragon-shaped blade. Be careful. Yu Yuan frowned. 4 silver iron profound bombs, and I pierced his heart and lungs. What do I have to be careful of? Zhao Yafa didn't care at all. Oh right. You told me to be careful of others, right? While saying this, she couldn't help but look at the furious Li Yuan and the other Li family clansmen who had ill intentions. Yu Yuan, you have to give a reasonable explanation. Li Yuan forced himself to calm down after his rage. If you don't give a reasonable explanation, don't blame us for being impolite. He suddenly raised his left hand. The Li family clansmen all stood up and surrounded Yu Yuan and Zhao Yafu in the center. Bright yellow, light purple, dark green, and other different colors of spirit energy radiated from the Li family clansmen, making them look like gods and Buddhas. Yan Lu, Su Yan, Zhang Tianxiang, and the other leaders all had different expressions. They were in no hurry to express their opinions. Why? Han Hui of Cold Moon City was the first to jump out. She asked in confusion, "Why did you kill Zhu Huan? No matter how dissatisfied I am with Waning Moon City, Feng Xian is dead, and he's the only one alive. If I can go over, why can't you?" I think that if Feng Xian and the others died, it was because of him, Yu Yuan said calmly. After he fell, he didn't show any grief. He was too calm, too cold. And I'm very sure that he harbors ill intentions towards all of us. I'm talking about everyone, not just me. Yu Yuan threw out an answer. Unfortunately, no one present seemed to be willing to believe it. Do you have any evidence? Li Yuan said angrily. If you don't have evidence and everything is just your imagination, then you won't be able to escape the punishment of the Li family. Evidence? Yu Yuan rubbed his chin and muttered to himself for a few seconds. Zhao Xiaomei, go look for it on him. Oh. Zhao Yafa nodded. However, at this moment Yu Yuan suddenly shouted, "Be careful! Get out of my way!" His heavenly soul, which he had gone to great lengths to condense, sensed a wisp of soul will hidden in Zhu Huan's corpse. It was a terrifying soul movement that was dark, ruthless, and filled with hatred towards all living beings. Zhu Huan was bombarded by 4 silver iron Xian bombs and had his heart and lungs pierced. Shouldn't he be dead? Among those who had participated in the trial in the forbidden area, Li Yu's cultivation base was the highest, which was at the profound breaker stage. Even Li Yu wouldn't be able to generate soul will fluctuations after his heart and lungs were pierced after his body was destroyed. Unless he had reached the Yin God stage. Whoosh! Whoosh! All of a sudden, silver lightning bolts shot out of Zhu Huan's corpse. It shot towards Zhao Yafu and everyone else in the crater. The so-called silver lightning was the result of the explosion of the 4 silver iron Xian bombs, which had turned into hundreds of silver needles that were thinner than hairs. Puff! 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 The silver lightning pierced through the Li clan members' spiritual power shields and halos, piercing into their flesh and blood. 2 of them had their necks, chests, and foreheads pierced by the lightning. Zhao Yafu, on the other hand, decisively let go of the dragon-shaped blade when she was about to grab it. Then, she suddenly turned into an icy blue dragon shadow and flew straight into the hole above everyone's heads. There were still Yen clan members sticking their heads out of the hole and looking around. She instantly flashed into the hole. The moment she entered, the Li clan members that surrounded her and Yu Yuan began to wail like ghosts and howl like wolves. Yu Yuan, on the other hand, didn't say anything. After shouting a reminder, he immediately retreated. He immediately retreated to Su Yan's side. This was because Su Yan had even put on the divine feather heavenly robe. The moment the divine feather heavenly robe appeared, every feather blossomed with a bright and holy light, making Su Yan look like a goddess that had descended to the mortal world and was being worshipped by all living beings. Yu Yuan knew very well that the silver lightning of the silver iron Xian bombs couldn't break the divine feather heavenly robe on Su Yan's body. When Zhao Dongxing had people deliver the silver iron Xian bombs, he had people warn him that geniuses like Li Yu, Yen Lu, and Su Yan all had precious treasures on them. If the silver iron Xian bombs were to be effective against them, they had to be caught off guard and explode instantly. As long as they were prepared, as long as they weren't close enough and had enough time to take out their life-saving treasures, the silver iron Xian bombs wouldn't be able to kill them. They had precious treasures to protect them, but Zhu Huan obviously didn't. That was why he was beaten into a hornet's nest. But Zhu Huan actually didn't die. Zhu Huan. The Li family's Li Yuan's waist, abdomen, and knees were also shot into by the indiscriminate silver lightning. His anger at this moment was far greater than before. Suddenly, he believed Yu Yuan's words. If Feng Xian died, then Zhu Huan definitely couldn't escape responsibility. Moreover, Zhu Huan was filled with malice towards everyone. Otherwise, the silver lightning that sputtered out of his body should only be aimed at Yu Yuan and Zhao Yafu, and not everyone who was nearby. But the people closest to Zhu Huan were their Li family clansmen. Because they wanted to surround Yu Yuan, they blocked the sputtering silver lightning for Yu Yuan. See, didn't I tell you? Yu Yuan stood to the left of Su Yan and spread his hands. He said very innocently and very wrongly, I told you to be more careful. I told you that there was something wrong with Zhu Huan, but you didn't listen. His expression could still be considered relaxed. But other than him, everyone looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Their expressions were extremely grave. This was because they couldn't understand how Zhu Huan could still be alive. Even if he was in the subtle realm, if he was below the Yin spirit realm, he wouldn't be able to survive such a serious injury. At the shattering realm, the profound gate in the middle dantian was close to the heart and lungs. How could he survive having his heart and lungs pierced by the dragon-shaped sharp blade and the glabella and neck pierced by hundreds of silver lightning bolts? Why was Zhu Huan still alive? Why was he able to force out the silver lightning bolts and kill 2 more Li family clansmen? Who are you? Han Hui from Cold Moon City gestured for everyone to be extremely careful. Then, she carefully sized up Zhu Huan. You're different. You look the same, but everything else is different. She had seen that Zhu Huan before. He was very hot-tempered, vulgar, and foul-mouthed. Come to think of it, this Zhu Huan had been different ever since he descended. He was too calm, too indifferent, and too quiet. Originally, she thought that it was because Zhu Huan had suffered a mental breakdown after being severely injured. Now that she looked at him again, she suddenly realized that there were too many suspicious points about the current Zhu Huan. He was completely different from the previous Zhu Huan from his demeanor to his actions. He was also pierced by the sharp blade. The remaining silver lightning bolts from the silver iron Xian bomb in his body all shot out at once. Yu Yuan leaned closer to Su Yan, his shoulders almost touching the feathers as he said, Geniuses of the Empire, I can be sure of one thing. This person's body is probably dead, but his soul is very strange. Therefore, when you attack later, don't think about injuring or destroying his physical body. Think about how to attack his soul. Can you not get too close to me? The young lady from the Su family twitched her tall nose and turned to look at him. Her beautiful eyes and delicate face were filled with displeasure. She took a step to the side. Yu Yuan laughed dryly. He licked his lips and leaned forward again, but still kept a distance from her. Little sister Su, I know how powerful your divine feather heavenly robe is. You also said that we have to work together to fight against the external enemy. Look, now that the external enemy has appeared, it's still me who should ferret him out, right? Su Yan braced herself and nodded. You can say that. My Yu family clansmen are all up there, and my cultivation is low and my strength is not enough. Yu Yuan said with a long face and said helplessly, If I expose this Zhu Huan, He will definitely kill me first. Since we are all allies, and your divine feather heavenly robe is so powerful, why don't you do me a favor and protect me as well? Su Yen frowned as she looked at the shameless Yu Yuan. Thinking back to his decisiveness and craziness when he killed Zhu Huan, she felt a bit of a headache. He didn't seem like a person at all. What's going on with this guy? Also, how did he know that there was something wrong with Zhu Huan? How did he dare to kill without any evidence? Thinking thus, Su Yen moved to the side again. Just as Yu Yuan was about to come closer again, she said in embarrassment, "Stand there and don't move. The range of the divine feather heavenly robe is enough to protect you from your current position." Sigh, stingy woman, Yu Yuan stopped and said, "Don't avoid the difference between men and women at a time of life and death." Chapter 77. Who are you, sir? Yen Lu roared and stepped out of the crowd. Step by step, he walked toward Zhu Huan. Whoosh! 2 streaks of dazzling light, one gold and one silver, shot out of his cuffs and interwove in front of his chest, forming a short stick that was engraved with complicated golden and silver patterns. The short stick didn't fall into his hand. Instead, it floated in front of his chest and moved forward inch by inch as he walked. Fizz! 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 The space between him and Zhu Huan seemed to be squeezed by something, giving rise to strange sounds. The trial takers from the Li clan and Yue City, who had been standing in that area, suddenly felt their chests tighten, and couldn't help but step aside to make way. It opened up a straight path for Yen Lu to rush towards Zhu Huan. Not bad. Yu Yuan's eyes narrowed as he stared at the short stick and commented in a low voice, "The young master of the Yen clan is smart. After all, he's willing to listen to others." He couldn't tell what spiritual material the short stick was made of. However, when Yen Lu summoned it and examined it with rapt attention, he felt as if golden and silver light were trying to penetrate his soul and injure it. He instantly realized that the short stick Yen Lu, the new moon of the Tang Empire, was holding must contain power that could threaten spirits. "I can't believe the Yen clan gave him their precious treasure." Su Yen was clearly shocked as she stared at the short stick that was engraved with golden and silver patterns. "Aren't the Yen clan afraid that they'll lose it in the forbidden land of the falling moons? The Yen clan's precious treasure?" Yu Yuan was taken aback. "Does it have a special effect on spirits?" "That short stick is also called the soul-crushing stick. It's a 7th-level Earth-grade spiritual tool," Su Yen explained. "Normally speaking, only cultivators at the subtle realm and the nether god realm will be able to bring out the full power of an Earth-grade spiritual tool. What I'm more worried about is whether Yen Lu, who is at the late Golden Hall stage, will be able to bring out the full power of the soul-crushing stick." "Soul-crushing, soul-crushing." Yu Yuan nodded slightly. "It seems that I was right. This short stick can really deal with spirit." "What's going on with Zhu Huan?" Su Yen turned her head and looked at Yu Yuan, who had remained calm ever since Zhu Huan came back to life. "He doesn't look like a Yin spirit." "I haven't figured it out yet," Yu Yuan said with a frown. At this moment, Zhu Huan, who had his chest pierced by the dragon-shaped blade and nailed to the stone wall, slowly reached out to grab the handle of the blade. At the same time, an extremely strange scene played out. Drops of blood suddenly flowed out of his wounds that had been penetrated by hundreds of silver lightning bolts. Drops of blood that looked like glowing red beads squeezed into his wounds and entered his body. Even the blood that fell to the ground flew up drop by drop and fused into his body like water melting into the sea. Furthermore, the bloody holes on his neck, face, and forehead actually healed under everyone's gazes. It was as if he was not injured at all. His fleshly body recovered within a short period of time. Only then did he slowly exert force with his hand that was grabbing the sharp blade. He pulled out the dragon-shaped sharp blade bit by bit. No blood spurted out. The dragon-shaped sharp blade seemed to have been pulled out of the scabbard through a crack in the wood. Zhu Huan's eyes were closed the whole time, as if he were sleepwalking. At the mouth of the cave, Zhao Yafu and a Yen clan member stood side by side and stared at him blankly. The expressions on their faces were extremely unnatural. Zhu Huan finally opened his eyes. In the depths of his pupils, bits of green light could be seen flickering like ghostly flames. He looked up at Zhao Yafu with an expressionless face. The dragon-shaped sharp blade in his hand suddenly started to tremble violently. Wisps of dragon aura could be seen within the dragon-shaped sharp blade, as if a giant dragon was being whipped by its neck and pulled by its tendons. Zhao Yafu let out a muffled groan, feeling as if a giant dragon was wailing in her acupoints. By relying on her connection with the spiritual tool, she knew that a strange power that didn't belong to her had rushed into the sharp blade like a flood, wantonly destroying the dragon aura and spiritual power she had nurtured within it. Yen Lu! At this moment, Yu Yuan called out loudly. Yen Lu, who had been accumulating power for a long time, put his palms together as if he had a tacit understanding with Zhu Huan. In front of his palms, the gold and silver patterns on the soul-breaking stick suddenly came to life and started to spin around it. The moment the gold and silver patterns started to spin, everyone who stared at the stick felt dizzy. Yu Yuan, who had refined his heavenly soul, was the most affected. He instantly felt a splitting headache. His soul felt as if it was being pressed against a millstone. As the millstone spun, it was being crushed. It was so painful that he almost screamed. Whoosh! The spinning soul-breaking staff unhurriedly smashed towards Zhu Huan's glabella. A strange feeling that their souls were being twisted and space was collapsing grew in everyone's hearts. In an instant, the thin spiritual chi of heaven and earth between Yen Lu and Zhu Huan was forcibly driven away. The green spots in Zhu Huan's eyes were like evil spirits that woke up one after another and shone brightly. The expression in his eyes and on his face was so cold and indifferent, as if the people at the bottom of the pit were nothing more than lambs, livestock for sacrifice. They weren't his kind with flesh, blood, and soul. If he's not possessed by a demon spirit, then he's possessed by a devil. Yu Yuan came to a conclusion and whispered to Su Yen, who was beside him, "The way he looks at people is definitely not our kind. Even if he's wearing Zhu Huan's skin, he's not like us." Demon spirit? Devil? Su Yen was shocked, her lips trembling. He's not a cultivator from the Scarlet Sun Empire? Definitely not. Yu Yuan gave the answer, and then suddenly became worried. If he's not a human, then it's even more difficult to deal with. If he's a human, we can still reason with him. Demon spirits and devils are all people who won't cry until they see the coffin. Fizz! Blood and flesh split open between Zhu Huan's eyebrows. The soul-breaking stick was only aimed at his forehead from afar, but he was already injured. At the mouth of the pit, Zhao Yafu suddenly sensed that the dragon aura and spiritual power inside her dragon-shaped blade were no longer being suppressed. Shoo! Zhu Huan threw the dragon-shaped blade towards the soul-breaking stick in an attempt to break the refined soul light at the tip of the stick. With a bang, 2 layers of golden and silver light formed in front of the soul-breaking stick like a peacock spreading its tail. The dragon-shaped blade pierced through the air with an ear-piercing sound. The blade fell to the ground with a clang, and the dragon aura and spiritual power inside it became chaotic, unable to move at all. Zhao Yafu let out a sigh of relief, knowing that the blade would be fine as long as it wasn't in Zhu Huan's hands. "Help me!" Yen Lu, who was staring at Zhu Huan with his hands clasped together, roared in a low voice. The soul-breaking stick that was approaching Zhu Huan became slower and slower. Every inch it moved forward seemed to drain him of all his energy. The crack between Zhu Huan's eyebrows grew bigger and bigger, to the point where the bones under his forehead could be vaguely seen. However, there wasn't a trace of fear in Zhu Huan's eyes. The green spots at the bottom of his eyes were still flickering and gathering evil power. "You guys take care of him." The leader of the Su family, who was wearing the divine feather heavenly robe, also came to Zhu Huan after Yen Lu asked for help. The Su family clansmen stared at Yu Yuan with reluctant faces, not saying a word. He exposed Zhu Huan's true face first. Just based on this, you should put aside your prejudice for now, Su Yen said. Hearing this, the Su family clansmen sighed and moved slightly closer to Yu Yuan. Brothers and sisters, then I'll have to trouble you. Yu Yuan clasped his hands insincerely as a greeting. Be careful. I'll go help Yen Lu. Zhang Tianxiang also slowly walked out from Yue City's side and said, If you don't have an artifact or incantation against souls, don't stand out and embarrass yourself. At this point, everyone could generally see that Zhu Huan was not afraid of physical attacks at all, because he had died long ago. To be exact, everyone already knew that there was another spirit that had attached itself to Zhu Huan's body, using Zhu Huan's identity and body to do evil. Chapter 78. The soul-breaking staff suddenly stopped. It shook violently in midair, but couldn't move an inch further. Zhu Huan slowly stood up. Whoosh! The spiritual qi of heaven and earth, as well as the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the forbidden wasteland, went from calm to violent. Everyone felt that the moment Zhu Huan stood up, the spiritual qi in the area suddenly became chaotic. The thin spiritual qi gathered into clouds that were attracted by Zhu Huan and sank from the top of the crater. They fell around Zhu Huan. The green light in the depths of Zhu Huan's eyes became more and more eerie. He suddenly pointed at Yen Lu. Dense and violent masses of spiritual energy flooded Yen Lu with a loud rumble. Yen Lu felt as if he had been hit by a cotton ball and was forced to stumble back. Not only could the soul-breaking staff not move an inch further, but it also flew back towards him. That short staff is a 7th-level Earth-grade spiritual tool. Yen Lu's cultivation base is too low. He can't control it for a long time. Wu Ji from Cold Moon City frowned and said to Han Hui, Sister Hui, that Zhu Huan is too strange. We have to be careful. Whoosh! Whoosh! The rich spiritual qi of heaven and earth enveloped Zhu Huan and everyone in the crater. Even Yu Yuan felt that the spiritual qi of heaven and earth didn't have good intentions. Not only could it not be absorbed, but it was also attacking him, affecting his aura and flesh. All of a sudden, Yu Yuan couldn't see Su Yen or Zhang Tianxiang clearly. Fizz! Beams of green light swam out of Zhu Huan's body like snakes and rushed towards the approaching Su Yen and Zhang Tianxiang. Su Yan's divine feather heavenly robe finally displayed its true power. Rings of light blossomed from every feather. Su Yen, who was wrapped in the divine feather heavenly robe, was like a god that had descended to the mortal world. She was mighty without being angry. Her otherworldly charm and the clusters of white smoke complemented each other. Su Yen suddenly rose into the air. In midair, she waved her hands like a rock spreading its wings. Dazzling light shone from her body and the wings she was wearing. The spiritual energy that was under Zhu Huan's control was moved to the sides by her movement. A feather, which seemed to come from the divine feather heavenly robe, but also seemed to come from somewhere else, suddenly appeared between the middle and ring fingers of Su Yan's left hand. The feather seemed to be made of pure energy, but it also looked like some kind of strange crystal. It gave people a feeling that it was illusory and unreal, but it was filled with endless mysteries. Even from a distance, Yu Yuan didn't dare to stare at the light that burst out of the feather for too long. Then, in an instant, the feather disappeared between Su Yan's fingers. The feather seemed to disappear into thin air. However, the turbulent and violent spiritual energy in the pit stabilized in an instant. Someone pointed at Zhu Huan and exclaimed, "That feather!" Deep inside Zhu Huan's dark eyes, a green light suddenly fell on a feather. It was like strong acid trying to corrode that feather. The feather that had disappeared between Su Yan's fingers had unknowingly appeared in Zhu Huan's eyes. And the eyes were the windows to the soul. Therefore, that feather was the same as Yen Lu's soul-breaking staff. It also had the effect of obliterating and destroying souls. The divine feather heavenly robe truly lives up to its name. Interesting. Yu Yuan nodded lightly and praised it in his heart. Roar. A bestial roar that tore through the sky suddenly came from where Zhang Tianxiang was. Zhang Tianxiang's clothes exploded, and his upper body was naked. His eyes were wide open, as if he had fallen into a state of madness. His entire back was covered in the tattoo of the ancient god of Golden Elephant. The tattoo was so lifelike that it looked like the demon god that had once looked down on the world. When it was at the peak of level 10, it was lying on his back and residing in his body. Zhang Tianxiang's aura crazily rose like a waterfall that went against the heavens. As his flesh wriggled and his muscles twitched, the tattoo of the ancient god of Golden Elephant on his back seemed to come alive. Even Yu Yuan had a feeling that the sound came from Zhang Tianxiang's roar. It was ancient god Golden Elephant, who was somewhere in this vast heaven and earth, transmitting his anger and brutality through the tattoos on his back to intimidate all living beings. Even though his level had dropped, the ancient god of Golden Elephant was still at the 9th grade. He was a human grand divine ability cultivator that was comparable to the Freedom Realm. His bestial roar contained his divine might and demonic energy, as well as his understanding of the core power of Howren. Puff, puff, puff. Zhu Huan's body, which had recovered to its original state, seemed to be bombarded by the bestial roar. His body, which had just risen to its feet, was suddenly slammed into the stone wall. It was as if the ancient god of Golden Elephant's roar had turned into a giant hand that pressed down on the stone wall, immobilizing him. The stone wall creaked under the force of his impact, and rocks flew everywhere. Yen Lu, Su Yen, Zhang Tianxiang, Yu Yuan, who was hiding among the Su family trial-takers, nodded slightly. He also understood that Zhang Tianxiang hadn't used his full strength in his battle with Zhao Yafu. If Zhang Tianxiang had used his full strength at that time and used the ancient god of Golden Elephant's demon god brute force, Zhao Yafu would have been defeated. After all, Zhao Yafu was a realm lower than him. When Zhao Yafu broke through to the late stage of the Golden Hall realm, her cultivation, talent, body, and dragon aura would be more compatible with the infant dragon soul. Only then would she be able to fight evenly with Zhang Tianxiang. Everyone else, get out of the way. The three of us will work together to kill this bastard. With Su Yen and Zhang Tianxiang's resistance, Yen Lu came to his senses and suddenly grabbed the soul-breaking staff. He no longer controlled it with his mind, but with his physical strength. He suddenly charged towards Zhu Huan violently. It was just like how the berserk golden rhino he was riding had almost killed Yu Yuan when it was running through the wilderness in a frenzy. The berserk Yen Lu's aura was like a rainbow. There really was a rainbow light that was formed by the violent, chaotic, and crazy torrents of energy. As he violently charged, they naturally condensed into one piece. This was obviously some kind of berserk art Yen Lu cultivated. Boom! The berserk torrent of energy crashed into Zhu Huan's body with great momentum like a broken dam. At that moment, Yu Yuan could clearly feel that Zhu Huan's bones and internal organs had been smashed into mush. His bones had been shattered into bone fragments. Zhu Huan's body had only been tempered to the late stage of the spirit nurture realm to begin with. After being invaded by the foreign soul, it couldn't change his body completely in a short time. Otherwise, the silver-iron profound bombs wouldn't have been able to pierce his body completely. Similarly, no matter how powerful the foreign soul was, because Zhu Huan's body wasn't strong enough, it could only be destroyed by Yen Lu's attack. Zhu Huan's body had been reduced to mush. Without the support of his bones and the power to flow through his meridians, he had lost all of his value. Even his head had exploded in an instant. Then, only bits of green light were left flying out of his corpse's head. The bones in Yu Yuan's arms became heavy, and the bits of sword light burned fiercely again. He subconsciously pointed at the bits of green light floating out of Zhu Huan's body from afar. A vast, ancient, and terrifying sword intent instantly arrived at the bits of green light, the sword light and the will of the sword soul. Soon after, the specks of green light were extinguished one by one and disappeared without leaving a trace. Chapter 79. Yen Lu, Su Yen, and Zhang Tianxiang sensed something at the same time. 3 pairs of eyes instantly fixed on Ye Tian. In the eyes of the onlookers, Yu Yuan's finger, which was pointing at Zhu Huan's corpse, didn't seem strange at all. However, the 3 of them, who had exhausted all of their strength in their battle against Zhu Huan, were unusually vigilant. They all noticed that the green sparks that had flown out of Zhu Huan's body had suddenly died out after Yu Yuan pointed at them with his finger. The green sparks contained soul fluctuations that were sinister, ruthless. They were clearly Zhu Huan's aura. In other words, those green sparks were the outsider soul residing in Zhu Huan's fleshly body. After the outsider soul left Zhu Huan's body, it might be able to find a new body and wreak havoc on everyone present. Yen Lu and the others were already exhausted. If the outsider soul entered a new body, they probably wouldn't be able to exert their full strength like before. The 3 of them were secretly shocked by the aura Yu Yuan exuded from his finger and the soul light that had instantly killed the outsider soul. That was why they all turned to look at Yu Yuan at the same time. "Why are you looking at me?" Yu Yuan raised his hand and scratched the back of his head awkwardly, pretending that nothing had happened. He was the only one who knew that the sword soul within the sword light that was branded in the bones of his hands had indeed easily destroyed Zhu Huan's soul. He had a feeling that as long as the outsider soul hadn't found a fleshly body and exposed itself as a pure soul, he would be able to slay it with his sword. Of course, the so-called sword didn't actually exist. It was the condensation of sword soul, sword intent, and sword light. It was also illusory and incorporeal. The sword soul had used the bones of his hands as a sword and spread a terrifying sword intent that could destroy Zhu Huan's soul. According to Yu Yuan's understanding, the so-called outsider soul wasn't a human's nether soul. A human's nether soul wasn't that weak. "I guess I've found a way to deal with this," Yu Yuan muttered inwardly. "The next time I run into someone like Zhu Huan, I'll first destroy his body and shatter his skull. As long as I can force the outsider soul out of his body, the sword soul imprinted in my bones will be able to kill him instantly." He also vaguely felt that the sword soul was the bane of the outsider soul that had been residing in Zhu Huan's body. The sword soul, sword intent, and sword light had originally been fused into the missing sword, as if it was meant to kill the outsider soul of death. As long as those shade souls dared to appear, they would be killed without mercy. "Nothing, I'm just looking at you." Zhang Tianxiang of Yue City grinned and laughed strangely at him. Despite his his laughter, his of heaven's face, of them. Of Yu Yuan of the soul had shoulds, of yous of soul of yaf of you of them of you of them. Zhang Tianxiang didn't know how the young master from the Yu clan in Dark Moon City had killed the Shade Soul with the help of a spiritual tool. But in his heart, he had already regarded Yu Yuan as a key figure. The Berserk Golden Rhino's intuition is never wrong. Yen Lu's heart was also in turmoil. The last emotion that the 4th grade Berserk Golden Rhino had given him was its fear of Yu Yuan. Yen Lu had no doubt about it. But Yen Lu had thought that it was because Yu Yuan had a treasure that could threaten the Berserk Golden Rhino. For example, silver iron Xian bombs, 4 silver iron Xian bombs detonated at the same time. Even the Berserk Golden Rhino couldn't withstand the hundreds of silver lightning bolts. Yen Lu had mistakenly thought that the Berserk Golden Rhino had instinctively smelled the silver iron Xian bombs. But now, he didn't think so. He still couldn't see through it. He still didn't know how Yu Yuan had killed the escaping outsider souls. However, he was well aware of Yu Yuan's importance. The foolish young master of the Yu family, Lin Zhuyun's fiancée, Su Yan, lowered her head slightly. She didn't look at Yu Yuan behind her. Instead, she looked at Zhu Huan's body, which had turned into a pile of meat paste. Wasn't it a bit inappropriate for the clan to put pressure on the Yu family in Anue City? Did they want the Yu family to hand over their alchemist, and the participants of the trial to pledge their loyalty to me after entering the forbidden area? Thinking of this, a bitter smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Why would Yu Yuan be loyal to her, Su Yan? Just because she was from the Su family, and the Su family had the Yu family's lifeline in their hands, did they have to make Yu Yuan obey her? Even if Yu Yuan had submitted, could she really suppress Yu Yuan in the trial in the forbidden area and cover up his talent that was destined to blossom? Yu Yuan, what on earth was that thing that flew out of Zhu Huan's body? After Li Yu left, Li Yuan, the head of the Li clan, finally showed up again. Pointing at the pile of mangled meat paste, he said, "You were the one who discovered this Zhu Huan first. How did you know he was the intruder?" "It wasn't a nether god," Han Hui chimed in. "Any one of us nether gods can easily kill all of us. Besides, most of them can't be seen or manifested." "Nonsense, I'm not asking you," Li Yuan said impatiently. Looking at Yu Yuan again, he said, "I'm asking him." Yu Yuan spread his hands. "I don't know about anything else, but I just have a feeling that there's something wrong with that Zhu Huan. He wants to kill me and all of us." "Just a feeling." Li Yuan was very displeased. "Why not?" The corner of Yu Yuan's mouth twitched, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. "Facts have proven that there's nothing wrong with my feeling." 2 people from the Li clan had died because they had surrounded Yu Yuan and been penetrated by those silver lightning bolts. Li Yuan himself had also been injured, and was full of anger. He didn't dare to vent his anger on Yan Lu, Su Yan, or Zhan Tianxiang, so he could only vent his anger on trial takers from small cities like Yu Yuan and Han Hui. "I think you know where that thing came from." Li Yuan took a deep breath and said, "What do you know? Please tell us, for the sake of everyone's safety." Yu Yuan shook his head again. "I don't know." Before Li Yuan could get angry, he sat down in the middle of the Su clan members and said, "We're all tired and need to recover. Those of you who didn't contribute, if you still have energy, why don't you take care of that corpse? It reeks of blood and gets in the way." He was ridiculing the Li clan members. From beginning to end, they hadn't helped Zhu Huan at all. It was Yu Yuan and Zhao Yafu who had first exposed Zhu Huan's identity and killed him with silver iron profound bombs. After Zhu Huan's second activity, it was Yan Lu, Su Yan, and Zhan Tianxiang who besieged him. No one could see through the final attack, so he didn't take the credit for it. Li Yuan still wanted to say something. "That's enough," Yan Lu said impatiently. "Li Yuan, why don't you take care of that corpse? I know your Li clan members have died, but whose clan hasn't been injured?" Su Yan also said, "Let's leave it at that. Don't quarrel." "Okay, everyone recover as soon as possible. Who knows what we'll face next?" After Zhan Tianxiang expressed his attitude, he suddenly looked at Yu Yuan with a smile. "Brother, you've done your best before. Do you need a pill to recover faster? I happen to have some here." He took the initiative to show his goodwill to Yu Yuan. Yan Lu hesitated for a moment and said, "I also have a soul-calming pill. You might need it." Su Yan's expression was strange. Everyone was in an uproar. Chapter 80. Many people didn't know that Yu Yuan had used her arm as a sword to destroy the deviant soul with her last strike. Only Yan Lu, Su Yan, and Zhan Tianxiang, who were close to the foreign soul and had fought with it before, cultivated spirit arts and artifacts, and were extremely sensitive to souls, discovered the truth. After learning the truth, they understood how much effort Yu Yuan had put into this matter. He had exposed Zhu Huan in advance and decisively killed him with 4 silver iron profound bombs. When Zhu Huan stood up for the second time, he had reminded everyone to attack with artifacts and spirit arts that targeted souls. Finally, when the foreign soul tried to escape, he had killed it from a distance. Yu Yuan was the one who had contributed the most in this battle. Yen Lu, Su Yen, and Zhang Tianxiang, the 3 proud sons of heaven, understood this. That was why they were dissatisfied when they saw Li Yuan pursue Yu Yuan's responsibility. This was why Zhang Tianxiang and Yen Lu had taken the initiative to express goodwill and extend an olive branch to Yu Yuan. If the 2 of them had any selfish motives, if there was more than one foreign soul, and there were more, they would still have to rely on Yu Yuan. If Yu Yuan maintained his spirit energy and mental state, it would be beneficial for the follow-up. When he faced the second foreign soul, he just needed to be able to deal a killing blow at the end. The 3 of them knew this, but others didn't. Seeing Zhang Tianxiang of US City and Yen Lu of the Yen family take the initiative to express goodwill, everyone found it inconceivable. Cough cough. Yu Yuan coughed softly and rejected Zhang Tianxiang and Yen Lu's goodwill. No need. I can't accept pills from the Su family. As he said this, he glanced at Su Yen. As the pearl of the Su family and the princess of the Empire's medicine-refining family, Su Yen couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Not many people knew that the Su family was suppressing the Yu family. Because the Yu family was too weak, they didn't deserve much attention. Therefore, other than the Yuan family and the Zhao family of Dark Moon City, the other families and forces of the Empire didn't know about this. Yen Lu and Zhang Tianxiang also didn't know the details. Hearing Yu Yuan's words, they were secretly surprised. They looked at Su Yen, and then at the other members of the Su clan, who looked somewhat embarrassed. They immediately realized that the Yu clan, which was supposed to be the Su clan's subordinate clan, was now estranged from the Su clan. Zhang Tianxiang chuckled and said, I didn't buy the pills from the Su family. Forget it, forget it. Yu Yuan declined again. Thank you for your kindness. Actually, I also have some recovery pills in my hand. With that said, he added, it's congested below, let's go up. Ignoring everyone's surprised gazes, he continued to walk up the stone steps. Zhao Yafu had already descended from the other cave and picked up the dragon-shaped blade. Seeing that he was about to leave, she hurriedly followed him and stroked the blade with heartache. Well, it might take some time for it to recover. Brother Yu. Zhang Tianxiang pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, why do you insist on going up? There are fewer people up there. It's more comfortable, Yu Yuan said casually. Zhang Tianxiang narrowed his eyes and thought seriously for a while. Then he said, now that you mention it, I also feel that it might be more comfortable up there. If you don't mind, count us in. He looked up at Yu Yuan with a bright smile. Yu Yuan shrugged. Whatever. All right. Zhang Tianxiang nodded and immediately ordered his clansmen, don't gather at the bottom of the pit. Follow me. We'll cultivate in the cave above. The people of US City obviously trusted him and immediately followed. Zhang Tianxiang himself followed Yu Yuan and quickly went up the stone steps that Yu Yuan had taken. Moreover, he quickly caught up. Yu Yuan was in front and he was behind. The 2 of them walked along the stone steps in silence. Gradually, the 2 of them got further and further away from the bottom of the pit. They were so far away that Zhang Tianxiang felt that their conversation couldn't be heard by others. He lowered his voice and said softly, do you think that there's no way out if we stay down there? Yu Yuan didn't look back. He still stepped on the stone steps and went up step by step. To be honest, I feel that there's definitely more than one shade soul that entered Zhu Huan's body. That one is hiding in Zhu Huan's body. He's probably just waiting for his companions or his leader to come. Zhang Tianxiang's expression suddenly changed. He looked at Yu Yuan's back and stopped. You're saying that the other party purposely gathered us at the bottom of the pit? It's just a feeling. Yu Yuan also stopped and looked back at him. I feel that the invaders find it troublesome and don't want to search for us all over the Forbidden Land. They're going to kill us one by one. Think of a way to make us gather together and catch us all in one fell swoop. Zhang Tianxiang's face became terrifyingly gloomy because of his words. It's just a feeling. Don't be too nervous, Yu Yuan said again. Your feelings seem to be very accurate. Zhang Tianxiang forced a smile that was uglier than bitterness. What the hell? Why did we have to encounter an enemy invasion? By the way, since you think that the invaders want to catch us all in one fell swoop, what are you planning to do by coming up here? What can we do? If the invaders are really strong enough to kill all of us, they'll be able to do so. Yu Yuan wasn't embarrassed at all. If we split up in the cave above, we might have a chance to survive. From the beginning to the end, he didn't plan to take the people of Dark Moon City and defend with the people below. What was the point of defending with their lives? Why don't you just tell them? Zhang Tianxiang asked again. As I said, I have no idea what they are, how many of them there are, or what their battle prowess is. Yu Yuan frowned and said, all of this is just my speculation. I don't have the slightest proof. Also, I'm not Li Yu. I can't convince others to believe me. Everyone gathers underground. A few of you stay above. If the invaders really appear and are strong enough to kill everyone, Zhang Tianxiang said disdainfully, most of the invaders will definitely kill those gathered at the bottom of the pit first. After all, there are many of them. If there is only one invader, they will naturally choose to go to the bottom of the pit first. If you split up and escape from different tunnels, the chances of survival will be much higher, right? Zhang Tianxiang was annoyed. Putting himself in Yu Yuan's shoes, he felt that if he were Yu Yuan, and if he had confidence in his intuition, he would make the same choice in order to survive. What does the life and death of others have to do with me? If their death can be exchanged for my survival, why not do it? Moreover, those people didn't treat me kindly in the first place. They didn't give me enough respect. However, the person who made this choice was Yu Yuan. The people who were going to be sacrificed were Zhang Tianxiang and his companions in Dark Moon City. Naturally, he was unhappy. You can think whatever you want. Yu Yuan didn't care. It's just a pit below. If there really is a strong invader, it's like catching a turtle in a jar. There's no way to avoid it. Before Li Yu left, he probably didn't think that things would be so complicated. If he and family were here, they would definitely make a better decision. Zhang Tianxiang snorted. You mean, I'm not as good as Li Yu and family? You, Yenlu, Su Yan, don't seem to be smart enough. Yu Yuan did not care whether she would agitate him or not. If you were smart enough, you wouldn't have been put in such a difficult situation by Zhu Huan, who was possessed by a different soul. After saying this, Yu Yuan no longer paid any attention to him, and suddenly sped up. Not long after, he met up with Yuan Ting and Yu Feifei, who were higher up. Are you okay? Yu Yuan asked. We're fine. We're all good. Yu Feifei poked her head out of the hole. Why are there people from the Yen clan here? Also, brother, did you fight down there before? It's too far. We can't see, but I think we heard fighting and saw some light. They were too far from the bottom of the pit. They couldn't see anything. There were some strange people, but they were killed by Yen Lu and the others. Don't worry, Yu Yuan said perfunctorily. He looked at the cave they were in. When he found that there was a passage in the cave that connected to other places, he was relieved. Zhang Tianxiang, you can choose another place. Don't come too close to us. Got it. Zhang Tianxiang's tone was heavy. After getting the so-called feeling from Yu Yuan, Zhang Tianxiang had a lot on his mind. However, he was still secretly glad that he had taken the initiative to express his goodwill and shamelessly insisted on following Yu Yuan. That was the only reason he had been able to hear those baseless feelings from Yu Yuan. Big brother Yu, there are people coming. Zhao Yafu, who was at the back, hadn't entered the cave yet. She was still hanging high up on the stone step. She looked up at the gradually appearing group of people and said, "Big brother Yu, it's your fiancé, the Lin family." A few seconds later, her expression suddenly changed. Almost at the same time, Zhang Tianxiang, who had poked his head out, had a gloomy look in his eyes. That was because both Zhao Yafu and Zhang Tianxiang saw an outsider in different clothes among the Lin clan's group. Both Zhao Yafu and Zhang Tianxiang had a vague impression of that outsider. Like Zhu Huan, he was also a member of Waning Moon City. He had been standing to Feng Xian's left at the entrance of the Forbidden Land. Chapter 81. The members of the Lin clan all wore the same blue robes. There was a large Lin character on their chests that could be identified at a glance. The trial taker from Waning Moon City wore gray robes and didn't have any obvious clan insignia on him. Lin Zhuyun, who was slowly descending from the sky, seemed to be in low spirits and a little tired. It was only after she heard Zhao Yafu's voice that she realized that Yu Yuan was in the middle of the cave. Strictly speaking, she had only met Yu Yuan twice, starting from the time Yu Yuan truly awakened. The first time was in the Yu clan's Great Hall. Yu Yuan had almost poisoned her parents to death with a poison pill. After that, they had met face to face in front of the forbidden area of the trial. This was the third time. Facing Yu Yuan, her feelings were incomparably complicated. She felt guilty, apologetic, but more than that, she felt hatred, anger, and a little bit of fear that she was unwilling to admit. In Waning Moon City's Great Hall, she had suffered great humiliation for the first time in her life, and had almost died. Only after Yuan Lianyao had taken her away and soaked her in a foul-smelling water tank had she been able to get rid of the poison that had invaded her flesh. How could she not hate him? However, when she asked herself in the dead of night, how could she not know that all of this was caused by her father's indulgence of Ju, the frigid insect's instigation, and her instinctive feigned ignorance? It was the Lin clan, the frigid insect, and herself who had caused this. Why should she hate him? Every time she thought of this, she felt more bitter and helpless in her heart. Waning Moon City. Zhang Tianxiang and Yu Yuan looked at each other from afar. After exchanging a glance, Zhang Tianxiang said, "Lin Zhuyun, what's the name of that trial taker from Waning Moon City? Also, why are you two together?" "Her?" Lin Zhuyun frowned. "Her name is Lu Ling. She got separated from Waning Moon City's Feng Xian. We met by chance, so we explored together." "Lu Ling, I know." Zhang Tianxiang's eyes lit up slightly as he asked Lin Zhuyun with a smile, "Do you know that outsiders have invaded the forbidden area?" "I guessed it." Lin Zhuyun's expression darkened. "3 people from our Lin clan were killed. We've also seen their corpses. They died in a strange manner. Even I can't tell the cause of death. It was precisely because we knew that there were enemies that we invited Lu Ling to accompany us after we saw her." Another person from the Lin family interjected, "We think that Feng Xian and the other trial takers of Waning Moon City, who were separated from her, have also met with misfortune." This speaker and Lin Zhuyun had seen Lu Ling and Feng Xian together at the entrance of the forbidden area, so they did not think that she was one of the invaders. He also felt that since there were foreign enemies, everyone should be united against a common enemy. As for Zhang Tianxiang, he had just joined forces with Yen Lu, Su Yan, and Yu Yuan to kill Zhu Huan. Naturally, he knew that there might be something wrong with Lu Ling. "I'll take you down." Zhang Tianxiang thought for a moment and said, "It's not just us. The Li, Yen, and Su families, as well as other cities' trial takers, are all down there." Lin Zhuyun's eyes lit up as she said, "Okay." After learning that there were enemies, she had the same thought as Li Yu. She felt that everyone should gather instead of being separated. "How did you find this place?" Yu Yuan suddenly interjected. "I just found my way here by accident." The Lin family member who had spoken earlier was very impatient and indifferent to Nie Tian's question. Yu Yuan didn't argue with him at this moment. Instead, he looked at the timid and pitiful Lu Ling and asked, "You didn't lead us here by accident, did you?" Zhang Tianxiang's expression flickered as he thought of a possibility. Just as the Lin family member was about to scold her, Lin Zhuyun interrupted him and looked at Yu Yuan with the same displeased expression. Little sister Lu was scared out of her wits. After she saw us, she became absent-minded and wanted to run away. We chased after her, and before we knew it, we found ourselves here. Oh, I see. Yu Yuan looked at Zhang Tianxiang meaningfully and said, "Take them away. I'll come later after I recover a little." "Remember to come," Zhang Tianxiang said with a long face. I know. Take them away first." Yu Yuan waved his hand and said, "Be careful." Zhang Tianxiang was 10,000 times unwilling, but he still agreed and said to the Yue City trial takers behind him, "All of you, stay here. Don't run around." He knew very well that the trial takers behind him couldn't help at all. After the incident with Zhu Huan, they had seen Lu Ling and heard the conversation between her and Yu Yuan. They already knew what was going on. In their hearts, Lu Ling was as troublesome as Zhu Huan. She might even be a more terrifying person. They nodded slightly and didn't dare to look at Lu Ling for fear that she would sense something was wrong. "Come with me." Zhang Tianxiang, who had just found a cave and hadn't cultivated yet, swallowed a pill and then led the Lin family down as a guide. Lin Zhuyun signaled her clansmen with her eyes and immediately followed. She looked at Zhang Tianxiang's back and felt that it was very strange. Why does Zhang Tianxiang listen to Yu Yuan so much? She was one of the few people who knew how powerful Zhang Tianxiang was. Within the family, Zhang Tianxiang was regarded as a leader only second to the 5 of them. She had even vaguely heard that Zhang Tianxiang was favored by the golden elephant ancient god. Why was such a person, and the leader of Yue City, willing to listen to Yu Yuan? Lin Zhuyun suddenly felt that there might be some secret hidden at the bottom of the pit. She cursed in her heart. She and the Lin family didn't stop and kept sliding down. The trial taker of Waning Moon City called Lu Ling was at the back. She didn't rush down, but timidly looked around. Looking at the cave where Yu Yuan was, and then at the cave where the trial takers were after Zhang Tianxiang left, she asked in a small voice, "What are you doing up there? Why didn't you go down like the others?" The people of Yue City didn't dare to look at her and didn't say anything. "It's congested down there and the spirit energy is too thin. It's not suitable for cultivation." Yu Yuan was very calm and said with a smile, "Also, there are strange things down there. There are many sword-shaped patterns on the moon fragment that fell down there. Everyone wants to comprehend it, so they're surrounding it." He had already guessed that the sword-shaped patterns and the sword energy imprinted on his bones must be related to the Shade Soul from before. He lied that the moon fragment below had such sword-shaped patterns to test Lu Ling. He wanted to see if Lu Ling had been possessed by the Shade Soul like Zhu Huan as he thought. As expected, after knowing that the moon fragment below had sword-shaped patterns, Lu Ling didn't ask why Yue City and Yu Yuan hadn't sunk down. She was obviously in a hurry as she walked towards the Lin clan and the direction where Zhang Tianxiang had fallen. When she left, Yu Yuan was sure that this Lu Ling of Wanhua City was one of the invaders like Zhu Huan. A long time later, when Lu Ling couldn't be seen, the girl from Yue City said in a small voice, "Big brother Yu, the moon fragment below doesn't have the sword-shaped patterns you mentioned." "I know it doesn't," Yu Yuan said. Then, the girl hesitated and asked, "She's the same as Zhu Huan?" "Yes, the same." Yu Yuan gave an affirmative answer. Then what should we do?" The girl was so anxious that she was about to cry. One Zhu Huan already exhausted them. If another one comes, will Big Brother Zhan be okay? Such a group of people who experienced the incident with Zhu Huan and had Zhang Tianxiang leading the way. If they still can't handle it well. Yu Yuan's expression was indifferent. I can only say that they're too weak and deserve to die. After saying this, Yu Yuan sat down and took out a pill and swallowed it. Don't disturb me. Chapter 82. In the stone cave, Yu Yuan took out the white paper fan and immersed his mind in it. His mind was like a wisp of invisible smoke, floating elegantly in the 4 black words, "Extreme wisdom will be hurt" on the white paper fan. During this period, he clearly felt that his heaven soul was recovering. Previously at the bottom of the pit, he pointed at the dots of green light that had escaped from Zhu Huan. The vast, mighty and ancient sword intent that came from his arm did not consume spiritual power, because the fatigue he felt after the battle mostly came from his soul. Of course, because he had not entered the nuance realm, he did not have a spiritual sense, so it was impossible for him to launch the attack with his own soul power. He knew that it was the sword's soul imprinted in the bones of his arm that killed the dots of green light. His soul only played a role in stimulating the sword's soul. Even so, after the attack, he still felt tired and weak in his soul. Therefore, after confirming that the newcomer Lu Ling, like Zhu Huan, had been taken over by a shade, he had to try his best to recover the spirit of his soul. At this time, he suddenly felt a little regretful. He regretted not accepting the elixir that could nourish the soul, as Yen Lu said. That way, he could make his soul comfortable in a shorter time. He did not expect that the second intruder would arrive so quickly. Did something terrible happen down there just now? Yuan Ting pulled Zhao Yafu aside and asked softly. From the conversation between Yu Yuan and the people of Yue City, he had already guessed that something strange must have happened. Moreover, they did faintly hear the sound of fighting and saw the blooming of spiritual light from above. Zhu Huan of Waning Moon City was killed by our joint efforts. Zhao Yafu explained, not long after you came up. Zhu Huan was possessed by a strange spirit and was plotting something down there. If Brother Yu did not discover it first, she explained quietly. Yuan Ting, Yu Feifei and the others were shocked. They did not expect that after they came up, such a thrilling battle had happened down there. Now Lu Ling, who fell down with the Lin clan, is another Zhu Huan. Zhao Yafu said. As soon as these words came out, Yuan Ting and Yu Feifei were even more frightened. Time passed by second. Suddenly, Zhao Yafu rushed to the entrance of the cave and looked down. Along with her was a group of people from Yue City. Those people were also anxiously watching the scene below. Because they were too far away, they couldn't clearly see what was happening at the bottom of the pit. However, the sounds of battle, the roars, and the blooming light from below were enough to explain the situation. It's starting. Zhao Yafu took a deep breath and said, with Yen Lu, Su Yan, Zhan Tianxiang, and the newcomer Lin Zhuyun, plus Han Hui and Li Yuan, we should be able to handle it. We almost couldn't handle that Zhu Huan from before. The young lady from Yue City was worried. It's just that after killing Zhu Huan and gaining experience, it's easier to deal with them. Zhao Yafu comforted her. Besides, everyone should know what's going on now that Lu Ling is there. First, try your best to destroy her physical body and force the other soul to escape. Then, give her a fatal blow. Don't worry, it should be fine. With her persuasion, the people from Yue City felt slightly more at ease. Not long after, holding the white paper fan, Yu Yuan, who was cultivating in silence, suddenly opened his eyes. A shocking aura suddenly surged out from his body. He suddenly raised his hand, his fingers forming a sword, and stabbed forward. Almost in a split second, the 7 or 8 green spots of light that had flown out of the crater went out one after another. The other soul that flew out of the pit was the scattered soul light. The other soul was destroyed by Yu Yuan? Then, the one that flew out of Zhu Huan's body was also Yu Yuan's doing. The trial takers from Yue City saw clearly this time that Yu Yuan raised his hand, and a terrifying sword intent came out and destroyed the green light. Even Zhao Yafu raised her eyebrows. She didn't think that Yu Yuan's actions in the battle with Zhu Huan were targeted at the other soul. She only thought that Yen Lu, Zhan Tianxiang, and Su Yen had attacked. So that's how it is. She suddenly understood why Yen Lu, Zhan Tianxiang, and Su Yen, the three geniuses, all spoke up to protect Yu Yuan after Li Yuan questioned him. Yen Lu and Zhan Tianxiang's initiative to be friendly also had an explanation. Big brother Yu, you are indeed the best. She smiled sweetly, and came to Yu Yuan who had woken up. She said in amazement, "How did you do it?" Those green lights were clearly split from the other soul. Not to mention the Spirit Nurture Realm, even Golden Hall Realm and Shattering Profound Realm cultivators couldn't use soul power to attack because they hadn't formed their spirit sense. Unless they used a special item. Yu Yuan didn't have any item at all. He just raised his head and pointed, and the soul light of the other soul was destroyed one by one. It was inconceivable to the extreme. After Yu Yuan used the same trick, he became weaker and weaker. He was too lazy to explain. "I'm tired, I want to rest." Oh. Zhao Yafu nodded like a chicken pecking rice. The trial takers of Yue City now looked at Yu Yuan in a completely different light. After a while, at the same time, 4 figures emerged from the stone path below in a hurry. They were Yen Lu, Zhan Tianxiang, Su Yen, and Lin Zhuyun. The 4 of them, who had experienced a life-and-death battle, had serious expressions. Lin Zhuyun's clothes were still covered in blood. They didn't know if it was hers or Lu Ling's. The 4 of them walked up the stone steps. The girl from Yue City immediately cheered. "Big brother Zhan, it's good that you're fine. Did you see the specks of green light floating out?" Yen Lu shouted. "I saw them," the girl immediately replied. "They just appeared, and Yu Yuan, no, big brother, you destroyed them. As for how he did it, I don't know." As soon as she said this, Lin Zhuyun's shocked gaze suddenly turned to Yu Yuan, who had his eyes closed. Before coming, she had already learned some things from Su Yen, Yen Lu, and Zhan Tianxiang. She also heard that the other soul that escaped from Zhu Huan was destroyed by Yu Yuan. But she found it hard to believe. Now that the girl from Yue City had confirmed it herself, she had to believe it. But how could Yu Yuan do it? "I knew it, with brother Yu, that other soul will not be able to escape." Zhan Tianxiang was obviously relieved. "It's good that it didn't escape, otherwise the trouble would be bigger." Yu Yuan weakly waved at Yen Lu and said, "I want that soul-nourishing pill now. I'm here to send you off." Yen Lu didn't hesitate at all. He directly went into the cave where Yu Yuan was and handed over a porcelain bottle carved with exquisite patterns. The surprise in Lin Zhuyun's eyes grew stronger. P.S. I drank too much yesterday, so I only wrote 1 chapter today. Sorry. Chapter 83. Not long ago, she had led the Lin family clansmen and Lu Ling to the bottom of the pit. After landing, Zhan Tianxiang began to introduce Lu Ling to the crowd. After receiving Zhan Tianxiang's hint, the trial takers at the bottom of the pit who had experienced Zhu Huan's death quickly realized that Lu Ling had also been possessed by a foreign soul. Only she and the Lin family clansmen were kept in the dark. Shortly after, a plot to kill Lu Ling broke out without any warning. Before she could react, while she was still in a daze, a bloody and cruel battle had already begun. When Lu Ling faced the first round of attacks, she grabbed the Lin family clansman closest to her and used him as a meat shield in front of her. That man was none other than the one who had gotten into an argument with Yu Yuan when they first landed here. He had been instantly killed by Yen Lu, Zhan Tianxiang, Su Yen, and the others, who had also injured Lu Ling. Then, they had joined forces and caused Lu Ling's flesh to explode. When Lin Zhuyun was about to take revenge on Yen Lu and the others, Han Hui and the others stopped her and told her the truth. Moreover, she had seen with her own eyes that the previously timid Lu Ling's fighting strength skyrocketed after her eyes flashed with green light. The gloomy, ruthless, and indifferent aura exuded from Lu Ling's body proved that what everyone said was true. Lu Ling eventually followed in Zhu Huan's footstep. After the foreign soul escaped, it floated into the air and tried to escape. Among the people in the pit, only the Lin family clansman closest to Lu Ling was sacrificed as a meat shield because he knew nothing. If she had known the truth in advance, if Yu Yuan had given her a hint when she had fallen, would that clansman have been spared? Zhang Tianxiang, Yen Lu, and the others had kept it a secret from the beginning. In order to make Lu Ling lower her guard, they hadn't said anything. The one who had been sacrificed was a member of the Lin family. She had a lot of resentment towards Yen Lu, Zhang Tianxiang, Su Yan, and Yu Yuan. But, so what? Yen Lu, Zhang Tianxiang, and Su Yan were on the same side. They attached great importance to her, and even fawned over her nominal fiancé. The young man she had looked down on, disliked, and hated from the bottom of her heart had unknowingly become an important figure in the Forbidden Land. This kind of huge change made her feel like she was dreaming, giving birth to an extremely unrealistic feeling. Yu Yuan, now we know that there are more than 1 or 2 invaders. Su Yan also came to the cave where everyone from Dark Moon City was. With a grim expression, she said, "We need you." Off to the side, Zhang Tianxiang frowned and said, "The good news is that the deviant souls can't communicate with each other." Everyone was clear on this point. If the souls that had attached themselves to Zhu Huan and Lu Ling could still communicate with each other through soul remembrance, then Lu Ling, who was the second to fall into the trap, wouldn't walk right into it. Lu Ling's soul didn't know that one of her companions had just been killed, which was why she had calmed down. Since he could kill Zhu Huan and Lu Ling, as long as he could ascertain the identity of the other souls, wouldn't he be able to kill them all the same? The most important thing was that they couldn't allow the shades to successfully escape. As long as one of them managed to escape, the otherworldly demons and otherworldly demons would know that their plan had failed and that their identities had been exposed. At that time, the deviant souls would not fall in one by one, but would gather together. If multiple deviant souls like Zhu Huan and Lu Ling entered the cave, would they be able to win? No one had the confidence to do so. However, as the key to eliminating the deviant souls, Yu Yuan was naturally the key to this bloody feast. Nothing could happen to him. I need to recover my strength. With the medicinal pill in his hand, Yu Yuan glanced at Su Yan with an expressionless face. Su Yan seemed a bit wronged. "We just went through a bloody battle. My cultivation base is still low," Yu Yuan said. "Oh, okay. I forgot that you're only at the early spirit nurturing stage." Su Yan bowed her head slightly, but inwardly she thought, how can a spirit nurturing stage cultivator kill a deviant soul? On the other side, Lin Zhuyun looked at Su Yan with a strange look in her eyes. "You seem to have a good temper now, little sister Su. What can I do?" When Su Yan turned to look at her, she was gentle and graceful. She had the demeanor of a noble. Who asked her to be the first to expose Zhu Huan's identity? She even dared to deal a fatal blow to Zhu Huan. She even managed to destroy the fleeing soul. Lin Zhuyun didn't know what to say. "Please recover as soon as possible," Yen Lu said solemnly. "Okay." Yu Yuan brought the medicinal pill closer to his eyes. He stared at it for a while, took a whiff of its fragrance, and swallowed it. After swallowing it, he chewed it into pieces and swallowed only one piece. As soon as a pill fragment the size of a fingernail fell into Yu Yuan's stomach, she immediately reacted and said to the crowd, "Please don't disturb me while I'm cultivating." Zhao Yafa didn't stand on ceremony. She stood in front of him and said with a sweet smile, "You can either go down or wait in another cave." "I'm not in a hurry," Yen Lu said. "I'll wait in another cave." Su Yan also said, "I have something to say to him. I'll wait in another cave." Lin Zhuyun didn't say anything. Instead, she went to Zhang Tianxiang's cave on the other side to denounce him. A 5th-level spirit-grade soul-restoring pill. Yanlu is really generous. After they left, Yu Yuan muttered to himself as he took out the white paper fan again and focused his soul awareness. The piece of the soul-restoring pill suddenly turned into a streak of faint blue light in his internal organs. The streak of light went straight to the spot between his eyebrows. Yu Yuan felt a chill between his eyebrows, and his mind suddenly became much clearer. The fatigue from before also disappeared in an extremely short period of time. No wonder it's called a soul-restoring pill. It's beneficial to all 3 souls. With the help of the soul-restoring pill, Yu Yuan immersed his mind completely in the white paper fan. After a while, he chewed and swallowed the other piece of the soul-restoring pill. He knew very well that, given his current cultivation base, he probably couldn't take the pill in one go and would waste some of its medicinal power. Only by slowly swallowing, refining his soul would he be able to maximize the medicinal power of the soul-restoring pill. Time passed bit by bit. After chewing a soul-restoring pill, Yu Yuan swallowed it 7 times. His mind was constantly immersed in the 4 black words on the white paper fan: extreme wisdom will be injured. Then, he suddenly comprehended this secret technique to refine his soul. It was called the Extreme Wisdom Soul Tempering Technique. Extreme wisdom and gather were homophonic. It meant to gather one's soul and mind to focus on forging. Extreme Wisdom Soul Tempering Technique. The word wisdom means that this soul refining technique mainly targets the soul. Can this technique cause the soul to transform and condense into a sun god? Extreme wisdom will be injured. Does this mean that this soul technique has other drawbacks? Where will this injury be? During the process of cultivation, his thoughts were chaotic. But surprisingly, his chaotic thoughts seemed to be sucked in by the white paper fan, running around in the 4 black word. When his chaotic thoughts gathered together again, he immediately felt his mind shake. He felt that his heavenly soul had become more condensed, and his intelligence had become clearer. His chaotic thoughts seemed to be cleansed and sublimated in the 4 word. Chapter 84. Frigid winds howled across the boundless wilderness. At some point in time, snow had started to fall, causing the temperature in the forbidden area to plummet. Dense and violent spiritual chi poured into the forbidden area from the depths of the forbidden area, which the Silver Moon Empire had deemed as a trial ground. Great changes had occurred in the fallen moon forbidden area. The chaos of spiritual energy that was supposed to happen 2 months after the trial was brought forward. As for the vast majority of people, they were still kept in the dark. Great changes are coming. Li Yu from the Li clan clenched a purple crystal ball in his right hand as he stared at the specks of green light within it. A trial taker from Waning Moon City was lying at his feet. Just like Zhu Huan and Lu Ling, that trial taker had also been possessed by a deviant soul, which had attempted to kill him. In the end, he had emerged victorious. Even the outsider souls and discarnate souls were imprisoned in the purple crystal ball. Unfortunately, I haven't reached the subtle realm yet, Li Yu said regretfully. I still can't fully unleash the power of the soul-sacrificing orb. The purple crystal ball in his hand was called the soul-sacrificing orb, and it was a powerful spiritual tool that could both attack and defend. The soul-sacrificing orb could refine souls, and it was effective against Een gods and soul wanderers. Because of this, the soul-sacrificing orb had been able to see through the soul of the trial taker as soon as it got close to Li Yu. As the strongest young man in the Empire and the only profound breakthrough realm cultivator in the forbidden area, Li Yu had single-handedly killed that man. The deviant soul had tried to escape, but it had been imprisoned by the soul-sacrificing orb, unable to break free. If Li Yu had reached the subtle realm, he might have been able to infuse his soul awareness into the soul-sacrificing orb and obtain the memories of the deviant soul from the specks of green light. Since I can't fully unleash the power of the soul-sacrificing orb, he could only watch as the specks of green light were refined by the soul-sacrificing orb and turned into wisps of soul power that fused into the soul-sacrificing orb. I have to return now. Liu sighed softly as he suddenly sped up and dashed across the wilderness like a bolt of lightning. Behind him, surging and raging spiritual energy came from the depths of the forbidden land, whistling like a frigid wind. The violent spiritual aura was bound to drown this last paradise in a very short period of time. It wouldn't be long before this area that the Silver Moon Empire had opened up as a training ground would fall into a state of spiritual energy turbulence. At that time, even with or without the Mirage water screen, no one would be able to see through the mysteries inside. The cultivators from the 5 great clans and 7 cities participating in the trial would have a hard time surviving if their cultivation base was low. It would be best for them to leave as soon as possible. I hope that after I leave, my clansmen won't encounter any similar invaders. When Liu returned, he was secretly worried. If he didn't have the soul sacrifice orb, the trial taker from Waning Moon City might not have been able to win in the end. Without him, wouldn't the Li clan suffer heavy casualties if they encountered such intruders in the depths of the pit? The female general of the empire, Liu Chan, faced the harsh astral winds and entered the depths of the forbidden grounds. Her face was pale. It was obvious that she had exhausted too much of her soul power. Clusters of green ghost fire floated in the air 5 kilometers behind her. The ghost fire were like green eyes and swaying lanterns in the air, chasing after her. The soul blades she released were restrained by the clusters of green ghost fire and the sudden cold of the world. On the other hand, the green ghost fire seemed to grow stronger and stronger. It was already impossible for her to return to the Empire. She could only take the risk and enter the most terrifying place to have a chance of survival. Waning Moon City's Feng Xian has been possessed by a foreign entity, and it's not from the Scarlet Sun Empire. At her cultivation level, she naturally knew who her opponent was. She also determined that the person who possessed Feng Xian and fought with her wasn't an enemy of the Empire. Recently, the days have become shorter and shorter, and the nights are too long. She looked at the night sky and felt that the days would pass in a moment. The night with the cold moon hanging high in the sky seemed to last forever. Every time Feng Xian, or the abomination that possessed Feng Xian, attacked her, it was always at night. During the day, Feng Xian's aura was still there, but it followed her from a distance and didn't attack her madly. What kind of foreign entity is it? She was still growing stronger. With each passing day, she would become a little stronger. The Empire should have sensed something was wrong. Why hasn't anyone entered? Liu Chan had many questions in her heart, but she still couldn't find an answer. Finally, one day, she stepped into the forbidden land of Fallen Moon in another area. Strangely, she found that the pressure and shadow that enveloped her from Feng Xian seemed to have disappeared. Feng Xian didn't seem to continue the pursuit. However, she was exhausted and didn't have the strength to look back. I only hope that the other trial takers didn't encounter such an opponent. Otherwise, they'll probably be wiped out, Liu Chan thought bitterly. She didn't know that the strongest Feng Xian was taking care of her. The 7 people guarding her were ordered by her to deal with the juniors participating in the trial. How could a mere Golden Hall Realm junior be worthy of her personal attack? One figure after another walked out of the pit and stood in the open field or in the stone caves that were slightly below. The Li family, the Su family, the Lin family, and the trial takers of Cold Moon City no longer guarded the hole and walked out. The reason for this was because Zhan Tianxiang had said Yu Yuan's guess. The invaders wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop. If it was before, no one would believe Yu Yuan's guess at all. But it was different now. Yen Lu, Su Yan, Zhang Tianxiang, and Lin Zhuyun chose to believe Yu Yuan's guess. They believed that the strange souls were driving them to gather and then kill them all in one fell swoop. Under such circumstances, if they continued to stay in the hole, wouldn't they be letting the invaders catch them like turtles in a jar? Yu Yuan knew this, but he led the people of Dark Moon City up here without warning us. What is his intention? Li Yuan of the Li family complained to Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui after leading his clansmen up here. He's planning to sacrifice us so that he can escape with the people of Dark Moon City when he's no match for them? Han Hui didn't answer. Zhang Tianxiang coughed and said, Yu Yuan is worried that no one will believe his words. He knew that Li Yuan's accusation was the truth. Yu Yuan had planned to sacrifice the others and take the opportunity to escape. If he hadn't shamelessly followed, he probably wouldn't have known the truth. You seem to be very dissatisfied with me. After consuming a spirit recovery pill, Yu Yuan's mind had recovered to its peak condition, and her heavenly soul had become even more refined. She walked out of the crater and said, If you're dissatisfied, so be it. We've decided to withdraw from the trial. Also, we won't continue to wait here. We'll leave immediately. Behind him, everyone from Dark Moon City was ready to go. Withdraw. Li Yuan was stunned. If we don't leave, are we going to wait for death here? Yu Yuan looked at him like he was looking at an idiot. The invaders have been here for so long, and Li Yu has been gone for so long, but the Empire hasn't done anything. What does this mean? What does it mean? Li Yuan said. It means that something must have happened to the people who were spying on us. Yu Yuan sneered. And the various eyes hidden in the forbidden area are definitely all broken. If that's not the case, then it's even worse. Maybe the guards and generals at the entrance of the forbidden area are all dead. Chapter 85. Yu Yuan's words sent chills down everyone's spines. Many people knew about the Mirage Water Curtain and the Mirage Pearls. Since they had the pearls and the Mirage Water Curtain, the people outside should be able to see that they were in a bad situation. The fact that they didn't send any reinforcements was enough to explain many problems. The grand formation formed by the Mirage Water Curtain and the Mirage Pearls had probably been destroyed. The old general guarding the Forbidden Land and Li Yuchan hadn't shown up yet. Perhaps they were also in trouble. Was it really necessary to persist in the trial in the Forbidden Land? Yu Yuan, if you're determined to leave, can you take us with you? Han Hui of Cold Moon City was the first to welcome him. After experiencing so many strange things and witnessing Yu Yuan's wonders, she would no longer underestimate him, as she had in the beginning. We don't plan to stay in the Forbidden Land and take risks. Han Hui's current attitude was so gentle and friendly that it was even somewhat humble. If we leave together, we can take care of each other. Also, we're willing to follow your orders on the way. She straightforwardly gave up the power of being the head of the Forbidden Land. This was something she wouldn't even have dared to think about before. None of the other trial takers of Cold Moon City raised any objections. Clearly, they all agreed with her decision. They were all willing to follow Yu Yuan's orders. Sister Han. Zhao Yafa narrowed her eyes and said with a smile, I'll definitely welcome you with open arms. Han Hui gave her a warm look, and then looked straight at Yu Yuan. Can you take us with you? Don't worry, I'll restrain my people and won't cause you any trouble. Yu Yuan rubbed his chin, pondered for a few seconds, and then nodded. Han Hui. Li Yuan exclaimed with a cold expression. Aren't you afraid that Yu Yuan will sacrifice Cold Moon City as cannon fodder? Sacrificing you for his own sake. He's capable of doing such a thing. Yu Yuan also looked meaningfully at Han Hui, waiting to see how she would answer. Since I've chosen to believe him, I'm not afraid, Han Hui said. Upon hearing this, Li Yuan was speechless. Ahem. Zhang Tianxiang looked somewhat embarrassed. Well, you also want to go with us? Yu Yuan was stunned. Okay. Zhang Tianxiang nodded repeatedly and said to Li Yuan apologetically, "I'm sorry, but you have to wait for Li Yu. You all trust Li Yu and feel that as long as he comes back, he will naturally lead you through the current predicament. But I want to leave. I'm really sorry." He represented everyone in US City. Before coming out of the pit, Li Yuan had told everyone that they could go up, but they should try their best not to separate. If they separated, Li Yu would not be able to find her when he returned. Everyone in the Li family firmly believed that Li Yu would definitely return and find out the truth. He would know who the invaders were and lead them to defeat those invaders. This was his trust in the strong. Yan Lu, Su Yan, Lin Zhuyun, and the others also had confidence in Li Yu. "If you insist on coming with us, that's fine too." Yu Yuan admired Zhang Tianxiang. "Your US City's strength is not bad. It will be of great help to us." "Why should we split up?" Su Yan interrupted. "I feel that there's no point in staying. We will only become targets." Yu Yuan gave such an explanation. "If you are willing to wait for Li Yu and believe that Li Yu can find a solution, we won't interfere. We don't want to wait and risk our lives, so we will go first." With that, Yu Yuan stepped out according to the direction in his heart. The people of US City, Cold Moon City, and US City silently followed under the signal of Han Hui and Zhang Tianxiang. Yu Yuan's method was actually splitting the unity. Li Yuan was full of complaints. He used his eyes to signal Yan Lu, Su Yan, and Lin Zhuyun. If he received the three's express or hint, Li Yuan would immediately take measures to force Yu Yuan and the others to stay. Zhang Tianxiang's battle strength was extraordinary. Yu Yuan could deal a fatal blow when the shades escaped. Both of them were powerful against the shade. Li Yuan didn't want them to leave. He hoped that they would stay here and wait for Li Yu's return like him. He believed that as long as Li Yu returned, Zhang Tianxiang and Yu Yuan wouldn't jump around. They would accept Li Yu's orders and become a force to kill the shades. He believed in Li Yu's personal charm. Unfortunately, Yan Lu, Su Yan, and Lin Zhuyun, the leaders of the three great families, didn't say anything to persuade them to stay. Although the three of them were helpless, they knew that Yu Yuan and Zhang Tianxiang had already done a lot. They also knew that everyone had their own ambitions. It was impossible to expect everyone to be like them. They didn't say anything. Therefore, Li Yuan could only accept the departure of US City, Cold Moon City, and US City. After a while, "Sigh, Brother Yu, you have already proven your accurate judgment and importance to the shades. But Yan Lu, Su Yan, and your fiancé still choose to believe Li Yu." Zhang Tianxiang complained as he walked. "The five great families will believe in their own strength at the critical moment. In their eyes, the trial-takers of the 7 cities are scattered sand. They aren't worth mentioning at all. Li Yu is strong. It was Li Yu who discovered the invaders and gathered everyone. But I feel that Li Yu may not be stronger than you in some aspects." Zhang Tianxiang kept complaining. Han Hui had a strange look in her eyes. She felt that by comparing Yu Yuan to Li Yu, he already showed Yu Yuan's value. But Yu Yuan was only at the early stage of the spirit-nurturing realm. Li Yu was at the shattering profound realm. Furthermore, many people knew that Li Yu possessed a miraculous artifact that could kill spirit souls. Yan Lu, Su Yan, and Lin Zhuyun all knew of Li Yu's strength and the existence of that artifact. Therefore, they were willing to believe in Li Yu and wait for his return. In her heart, even Han Hui felt that Li Yu had everything Yu Yuan had. Moreover, Li Yu's cultivation was much higher, so he could convince the others. "You want to come with us because you're worried that the 4 great families will sacrifice you under special circumstances. Is that so?" While Han Hui was still letting her imagination run wild, Yu Yuan suddenly stopped and turned to look at her. She subconsciously looked up and met Yu Yuan's eyes. Suddenly, she had a terrifying feeling that Yu Yuan could see through her completely. It was as if Yu Yuan's eyes could see into the depths of her heart. She didn't know that this was because Yu Yuan had used the extreme intelligent soul-tempering art and a soul recovery pill to condense his soul. She admitted it directly and lowered her head. In the eyes of the Li, Yan, Su, and Lin families, the trial takers of the other cities are inferior to them. The four great families control the situation, and we are so weak. If there is a need to search for the invaders, we will be arranged to do it. We want to live. We don't want to be their tools and be ordered by them. She said what she was really thinking. That's my guess. Yu Yuan nodded slightly. Because in your heart, if there is someone who can turn the tide and lead everyone to defeat the invaders, that person must be Li Yu, right? Han Hui was silent, but she nodded slightly. What about you? Yu Yuan asked. I don't think that Li Yu will succeed. Zhan Tianxiang snorted. Also, I don't like the people of the five great families. They feel that they are superior and that others should listen to them. I will do my best to get out of here alive with you, Yu Yuan promised. I believe you. Zhan Tianxiang smiled brightly. Chapter 86. A few days later, Li Yu returned to the wasteland alone. Brother Yu. The moment Li Yuan and the other Li clansmen saw him, their eyes brimmed with tears. They had been waiting for too long. Yan Lu, Su Yan, Lin Zhuyun, and the others also felt a sense of relief after Li Yu's appearance. For the past few days they had been worried day and night. They were worried that another soul like Zhu Huan and Lu Ling would appear. They were worried that even if they worked together, they wouldn't be able to stop it from escaping. After all, Yu Yuan had already left with the people of Dark Moon City, Cold Moon City, and Dark Moon City. Now that Li Yu was here, with the soul sacrifice orb in his possession, he would replace Yu Yuan and become everyone's pillar of support. How is it? After landing, Li Yu swept his indifferent gaze over everyone and frowned slightly. After he left, the Li clansmen weren't with Li Yuan. He had already guessed that something must have happened. However, the path of cultivation was always filled with danger. Everyone faced the threat of death. He was heartless by nature. Even if his clan brother died, it wouldn't affect his Dao heart. It's like this. Li Yuan knew Li Yu's temperament. He didn't expect him to question him one by one, so he hurriedly told him everything that had happened after he left. Li Yu remained indifferent and didn't ask any questions. It was only when Li Yuan said that the soul that escaped from Zhu Huan and Lu Ling's bodies seemed to have been destroyed by Yu Yuan that he was slightly surprised. He wasn't surprised at all about other things, including Yu Yuan seeing through Zhu Huan's identity and suddenly killing him. Is that so? After Li Yuan stopped, he suddenly looked at Yan Lu. Yan Lu nodded. Very much so. Other than the fact that he had some ill will towards Yu Yuan and said a few words that weren't to the point, everything else is true. Oh, Li Yu said with a calm expression. It seems that Yu Yuan from Dark Moon City did help a lot. What about you? Did you meet someone like him? Yan Lu asked curiously. I met one from Waning Moon City, Li Yu said casually. Li Yu said casually. He tried to ambush me, but the soul-sacrificing orb discovered him in advance. I spent some effort and killed him. What about your soul? Yan Lu asked again. It was refined by the soul-sacrifice orb, Li Yu said. Hearing these words, everyone present became excited. They had to work together to kill Zhu Huan and Lu Ling, and they had to pay the price of their lives before they finally succeeded. Li Yu was just one person, and he easily killed one of them single-handedly, causing his soul to scatter. This made the people who had bitterly waited feel that they had not waited in vain. They all felt that their choice to stay behind was extremely wise. With Li Yu and the sacrificial soul orb, what was there to be afraid of? Moreover, Li Yu was the strongest of the new generation of the Li clan, the future pillar of the empire. As long as he was here, the empire and the Li family would protect him at all costs. Therefore, going with Li Yu was definitely the wisest decision. We shouldn't stay in the forbidden area for too long. Li Yu, who they had placed their hopes on, frowned slightly and said that Yu Yuan's decision was very smart and rational. We should leave now and give up on the upcoming trial in the forbidden area. Let's get out of here first. Why? Su Yan asked curiously. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth has changed greatly, Li Yu explained. Violent waves of spiritual qi are coming from the depths of the forbidden area, and they're about to drown this place. Also, my aunt still hasn't shown up. I have a feeling that something is wrong. For everyone's safety, we have to leave as soon as possible. He made the same decision as Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan and the others stopped exploring the caves and continued to travel through the silver-white wasteland. The moonlit night was long, as if it would never end. As they traveled, they felt that the forbidden area of the falling moon forbidden area had become even colder than when they had first arrived. This was especially true in the middle of the night, where the cold wind whistled like the wailing of ice ghosts. This is so strange. Why is the night getting longer and longer? Zhang Tianxiang looked up at the crescent moon that hung high in the sky and said, Our trial isn't in the middle of winter. The weather in the Silver Moon Empire doesn't change so much. He couldn't figure it out. Han Hui nodded slightly. Yeah, it does seem a bit strange. The night is long and the weather is freezing. This doesn't make sense. However what? Zhang Tianxiang was taken aback. Han Hui didn't answer right away. Instead, her eyebrows furrowed as she pondered. After a long time, her expression suddenly flickered as she asked, Have you heard of an ancient legend in the Empire? What ancient legend? Yu Yuan's interest was also piqued. He stopped walking and turned around to look at her. An ancient legend? About the Empire? Zhang Tianxiang rubbed his forehead with a confused expression. Suddenly, his face turned pale with fright as he said, Han Hui, are you saying that? That's not. Han Hui nodded vigorously. The rest of the people were still confused. They all urged the two of them to clarify things quickly. Zhang Tianxiang took deep breaths to adjust his state of mind. Just as he was about to explain, he heard something and said, Someone's coming. Everyone instantly grew nervous. Amid the howling wind, they heard the sound of something rapidly approaching them. Everyone channeled their spirit energy, took out their spiritual tools, and prepared for battle. Yu Yuan, if it's someone like Lu Ling or Zhu Huan, will take care of their flesh and blood. You take care of the fleeing soul. Zhang Tianxiang was very calm in the face of unknown danger. Don't worry. If we go all out, we'll definitely be able to destroy their flesh and blood. In his eyes, Yu Yuan, who was only at the early stage of the spirit-nurturing realm, didn't have any silver-iron profound bombs, and wouldn't be of much help in a head-on battle. Since that was the case, he might as well save his strength and only deal the final blow. Yu Yuan was also very tactful. Yeah, I won't participate in the first round of physical combat. Everyone reached an agreement and prepared for a fierce battle. However, when the person appeared, the nervous crowd was instantly dumbfounded. The person who had come was Fan Li of the Fan family. Fan Li, the most famous handsome man of his generation in the Empire, was now alone. His clothes were tattered and covered in blood. His hair was disheveled and his face was dirty. He looked like a beggar who had fled from the wilderness. There was no trace of elegance to speak of. It's you. Fan Li's eyes suddenly lit up when he saw them. Did you encounter anyone from Waning Moon City? Were you attacked by anyone from Waning Moon City? Han Hui suddenly understood. But you encountered a trial taker from Waning Moon City who was possessed by a soul? You encountered them too? Fan Li took a deep breath, a trace of pain in his eyes. Everyone from the Fan family who participated in the trial shouldn't have survived. I was the only one who managed to escape from those two. Those two are still chasing after me. Those two took so many of your lives. Zhang Tianxiang frowned. We weren't able to see through their identities. When they attacked, we weren't prepared at all. Fan Li's mood was extremely bad. They ambushed us while we were cultivating. Half of us were killed in an instant. Hearing this, Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui couldn't help but look at Yu Yuan. They both thought of a possibility that made them shudder. Back then, if Yu Yuan hadn't seen through Zhu Huan's identity and let Lu Ling sneak in, those two would have attacked them while they were cultivating. How many people would have died? Chapter 87. Zhu Huan and Lu Ling's souls had been exposed by Yu Yuan, who had set Zhu Huan and Lu Ling up on purpose. Zhu Huan's body had been shot by a silver iron profound bomb, and then killed by everyone's combined efforts. Lu Ling was also caught off guard when she landed. She was severely injured by everyone in an instant. Her body festered and died. What if Zhu Huan and Lu Ling's identities hadn't been exposed, and they had been ambushed while everyone was cultivating at the bottom of the pit? Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui's expressions became unnatural when they thought of this. Family, right? Yu Yuan's expression was dark as he said, "Now that you've seen him, please leave quickly. Don't delay our journey." Leave quickly? Family didn't react immediately. What do you mean leave quickly? Zhang Tianxiang, Han Hui, and the other trial takers of Cold Moon City and Yue City were also confused. Yu Yuan was driving Fan Li away? Did I not make myself clear? Yu Yuan narrowed his eyes and repeated, "We don't want people like you in our team. So let's go our separate ways and not disturb each other." As soon as he said this, everyone finally understood. "You're driving me away?" Fan Li's eyes shone with cold light. "Since you know that there are enemies here, and the Fan clan has suffered great losses, and we've met each other, you want me to leave? There are still 2 enemies behind me, and I don't know where they are. You want to drive me away in this situation? Is it because you know that I'm not in good condition and can't do anything to you?" Before Yu Yuan could refute, he stared at Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui. "You two aren't going to listen to him, are you?" Han Hui was slightly hesitant. Zhang Tianxiang shrugged and said casually, "That's right, we're going to listen to him." Everyone could see that Fan Li was in a sorry state at this moment. He had used up a lot of spirit energy and was injured. Even if Fan Li was the new moon of the Empire, he was definitely not a match for Dark Moon City, Cold Moon City, and Yue City when his clansmen were all dead and he was seriously injured. Especially when Zhang Tianxiang's battle strength was just as terrifying. "He, Yu Yuan, is actually your leader?" Fan Li was extremely intelligent. Through a simple conversation and the details that could be seen everywhere, he came to such a shocking conclusion. "You're actually obeying an early-stage spirit nurture cultivator from the Yu clan of Dark Moon City. Laughable, truly laughable." Zhang Tianxiang, Han Hui, since you've seen me, you should believe in my strength and judgment. That's why I can lead you out of the Forbidden Land. Fan Li took the initiative to recommend himself. He wanted to use his reputation and strength in the Empire, as well as his family's foundation, to win the trust of Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui. As long as the two of them supported him, he would be recognized by Cold Moon City and Serene Moon City. What could a mere Yu Yuan do? You're just a stray dog. Where did you get the face to lead us? Yu Yuan's following words didn't give him any face at all. They were extremely harsh and ruthless. "Don't try to show off your cunning in front of me. You and your clansmen encountered 2 shades and were almost wiped out because you couldn't identify them. You still want to lead us? You? Do you think you're worthy? Also, who knows if you sacrificed your clansmen in exchange for your worthless life? How dare you boast in front of me like this?" The Forbidden Land was full of dangers. There were also shades eyeing them from the shadows. No one knew if they could leave alive. In such a situation, Yu Yuan didn't care about the status of this proud son of the 5 great clans. "Fan Li, let's part ways here." Zhang Tianxiang laughed and took the initiative to respond to Yu Yuan. I wish you safety. We'll meet again someday. Han Hui bowed slightly and said, Young Master Fan, take care. Then, she and Zhang Tianxiang signaled the trial takers in the team to follow Yu Yuan. Fan Li, the young master of the 5 great clans, was abandoned on the 5th new moon of the empire. He stood there alone, drowned by the howling cold wind. He didn't refute Yu Yuan's harsh mockery, nor did he try to sow discord between Yu Yuan, Zhang Tianxiang, and Han Hui. He just kept his mouth shut. That was because he already knew that Yu Yuan had somehow won Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui's trust. He also saw that the other trial takers of Cold Moon City and Nether Moon City didn't have any objections to Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui's decision. This meant that the trial takers of Cold Moon City and Nether Moon City also recognized Yu Yuan as their leader from the bottom of their hearts. At this point, he had no hope of winning, so he might as well give up. The future is long. As long as we're still in the Forbidden Land, as long as I'm still alive, we'll meet again. After a long while, Fan Li gradually calmed down, changed into a clean set of clothes, and tidied up his appearance. Then, he no longer hurriedly followed Yu Yuan and the others and continued forward. Of course he lied. Almost all of his clansmen had died because of him. Because he wanted to live. In his heart, his life was more important than all of his clansmen who had participated in this trial. Furthermore, the seniors of his clan had hinted to him that he could sacrifice his clansmen to ensure his own survival if he encountered great danger in the next 2 months of the trial. He felt that he had only done so in advance. He had long since escaped from the 2 outsider souls in Waning Moon City. He didn't appear to be in such a sorry state, nor did he suffer such serious injuries. The reason why he had disguised himself was because he wanted others to know that he had fought to the end and suffered serious injuries. He didn't want others to know that he had sacrificed his clansmen at the critical moment and escaped from the 2 outsider souls. Yu Yuan of Dark Moon City. No matter what you see, you won't be able to escape. If Fan Li were to join us, he would be even more troublesome than if Lu Ling and Zhu Huan were to join us. An hour later, Yu Yuan took the initiative to explain to Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui. He didn't suffer any serious injuries. The blood on his body doesn't seem to be his own. His panic, his impatience, all these were open for discussion. What I saw in his eyes was calmness. Zhang Tianxiang chuckled and didn't say anything. Han Hui was stunned. Are you saying that what Fan Li showed us wasn't his true state? Not even a word of truth. Yu Yuan nodded slowly. This guy is full of evil tricks. With him among us, sooner or later, something will happen. Instead of guarding against him every day, we might as well be more ruthless. His identity as the young master of the Fan clan is no longer of much use in the Forbidden Land. I know what kind of person Fan Li is, Zhang Tianxiang said. If you tell him to get lost, I'll raise both hands in agreement. That's good. Yu Yuan didn't explain further. 2 days later, raging spiritual qi of heaven and earth suddenly flooded over, enveloping Yu Yuan and the others who had been away for a long time. Yu Yuan felt uncomfortable all over in the raging spiritual qi. Even his heavenly soul's keen senses were affected. Everyone's vision, perception, and touch were greatly weakened in the raging spiritual qi. Furthermore, everyone had to use their strength to resist the raging spiritual qi, so that their auras wouldn't be disturbed. Find a place to rest. Don't expose yourself in the wilderness. Yu Yuan thought for a moment and determined that many people in the group were like him, having difficulty walking. Therefore, he passed on his order. Therefore, the group, who had been traveling in the wilderness for a long time, chose a nearby hole and found a few holes in the middle. The inside of the hole was also flooded by the raging spiritual qi. Yu Yuan sat down quietly. This time, he didn't take out the white paper fan. Instead, He took out a spirit stone and officially began his early spirit nurturing stage cultivation. Chapter 88. In the past, Yu Yuan didn't need any spiritual stones for his cultivation. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth was everywhere. For low-level meridian opening cultivators, the natural spiritual qi was enough for them to expand their meridians. The spiritual energy within spiritual stones was more refined, which wasn't necessarily a good thing for meridian opening cultivators. However, it was different for spirit nurture cultivators. Cultivators at this stage could also cultivate by absorbing spiritual qi of heaven and earth. It was just that their progress would be slightly slower. If they could use spiritual stones to supplement the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, their cultivation in the spirit nurture stage would be much more efficient. Of course, this was only limited to the Qianxian continent. On the Tranquil continent and the Tianyuan continent, the spirit nurture realm, and even the Golden Hall realm cultivators didn't need to rely on any spirit stones to cultivate. That was because the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in those two continents was much denser than in the Qianxian continent. Sects that had thousands or even tens of thousands of years of history had a strict selection of locations, so the spiritual qi of heaven and earth would naturally be denser. In addition, such large sects had large formations that could gather spiritual qi, which could make the spiritual qi of heaven and earth even more vigorous and abundant. In such sects, disciples in the meridian opening, spirit nurture, and Golden Hall realms didn't need any spiritual stones. Just the spiritual qi of the sect was enough for them to smoothly cultivate in the first 3 stages. It was rumored that the disciples of the 3 great sects of the Tianyuan continent, the Xuantianzong, Primal Yang sect, and Sword sect, didn't need any spiritual stones to cultivate to the breaking profound stage. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the 3 great sects was incomparably dense, so all of their disciples could benefit from it. Originally, Yu Yuan wasn't in a hurry to use spiritual stones to refine his body and nourish his organs when he was in the forbidden area. But because of the huge change in the spiritual qi of the forbidden area, his weak body couldn't bear the burden. The chaotic spiritual energy made it difficult for him to breathe, and it was inconvenient for him to move. He was forced to start cultivating in the spirit nurture stage, and this was the first time he truly refined his body. Wisps of refined spiritual energy were absorbed from the spiritual stone in his hand and flowed into his meridians. To him, the spiritual stone was like a small bucket of water. The spiritual energy he absorbed was like water from a bucket. Water was spiritual energy. Once it was sucked dry, the spirit stone would become useless and lose its value. While absorbing the spiritual power water from the spirit stones, he also took an origin spirit pill, which he used to refine his body and strengthen his flesh and blood. The cultivation of the spirit nurture realm relied on the 12 meridians to circulate spiritual energy to the 4 limbs and bones, strengthening the flesh and bones. For the vast majority of flesh, blood, and bones, if they were to be tempered and strengthened, there would be a process of destruction and reconstruction. It was torn apart, destroyed, and then strengthened and condensed again. Spiritual power was used to temper the muscles and bones. It was to first destroy them, and then use one's potential to strengthen the muscles and bones. In the spirit nurture stage, all the cultivators in the world would use spiritual energy to destroy their own bodies. Then, they would supplement it with meat and grains to replenish their vitality, using the nutrients from the vitality to heal their flesh and bones. The recovery of flesh, blood, and bones did not rely on spiritual power, but on the nutrients in the stomach. The recovered flesh, blood, and bones would be stronger, tougher, and more powerful than before. The so-called origin spirit pill was actually used to replenish one's vitality. It was a great tonic pill that contained the essence of medicinal herbs and the nutrients of qi and blood. It was especially suitable for spirit nurture cultivators. Without the origin spirit pill, spirit nurture cultivators would need to consume large amounts of meat and grains. With the origin spirit pill, they would no longer need to consume food. With the medicinal power of the origin spirit pill, they would be able to strengthen their muscles, heal their cracked bones, and make them more compact. My cultivation of the spirit nurture stage requires the help of new incantations. With this thought, a cluster of memories that was branded in the deepest part of his soul suddenly lit up. In his previous life, he had accidentally obtained an incantation that was specifically used to refine his body. Instantly, it appeared in his mind. As for the spirit stone in his hand, the wisps of spiritual energy within it suddenly went out of control and rushed into his body. Not only that, the turbulent spiritual energy of heaven and earth also suddenly gathered. Whoosh! Whoosh! It was as if a small spiritual energy storm had formed around Yu Yuan. Spiritual energy that was invisible to the naked eye poured into his body through his pores, mouth, and nose, and reached his meridians and flesh. His face was filled with pain and shock. His body, which was sitting upright, started to tremble. On the other side, because Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui's cultivation bases were higher, and their bodies were strong enough, they weren't as exhausted as Yu Yuan. The turbulent spiritual energy in this place made the two of them very uncomfortable, but they could still adapt to it. The two of them sat in a stone cave with incomparably grim expressions. The legend of the Empire won't come true at this moment, will it? Zhang Tianxiang's face was filled with bitterness. The cold night is endless. The moon devil will awaken from its slumber. The Empire may be replaced. He lowered his head and seemed to be chanting in a low voice, his emotions suppressed. Han Hui stared blankly outside the stone cave and said in a daze, "Only a few people have heard of such a legend. According to the legend, when the night gets longer and the weather gets colder, the moon devil will awaken. When the moon devil awakens, the empire may be destroyed and replaced by a new empire." "What's the moon devil?" she asked. Zhang Tianxiang shook his head. "The elders in my clan don't know. However, I've seen some things from some ancient books." "What is it?" Han Hui asked curiously. "What I saw seemed to be the previous empire." Zhang Tianxiang hesitated and said, "In the current territory of our Silver Moon Empire, the previous empire ceased to exist because the night grew longer and the moon devil awakened. Our Silver Moon Empire seems to have replaced that empire and become the master of this land." Han Hui screamed in fright. "Doesn't that mean that our Silver Moon Empire may be destroyed as well? Is it the so-called Moon Devil in the legend? If the legend is true, that may be the case." Zhang Tianxiang's heart was heavy. "If that's the case, let alone us who participated in the forbidden area. The outside world, our clans, and Her Majesty the Empress may all die because of this. If the empire falls into chaos, everyone may die. Who will care about us who participated in the trial?" Han Hui said with a long face, "That's not very likely, is it? It's not very likely that we'll encounter such a disaster, right? I also hope that's not the case. I hope it's a false alarm." Zhang Tianxiang sighed. "Should we explain this to Yu Yuan? I feel that if we do, the pressure on everyone will be even greater." "Let's tell him when he wakes up," Han Hui said. "Yes." The two of them avoided the others and conversed quietly. All of a sudden, they all sensed the abnormality at the same time. They looked at each other and then turned to look at the cave where Yu Yuan was cultivating. Yu Yuan was someone they paid special attention to. They naturally remembered the cave where Yu Yuan was. They clearly saw that the originally chaotic spiritual energy of heaven and earth seemed to be attracted and crazily rushed towards Yu Yuan's stone cave. The turbulent spiritual chi of heaven and earth turned gray, pale white, and dark brown, forming clusters of disorderly mist. Different colors meant that the purity of the spiritual energy was different. Furthermore, there were many impurities in the spiritual energy, which was not beneficial for cultivators to absorb and refine directly. It was possible that the spiritual qi contained in the mists of different colors contained other toxins and other materialized powders. Not only was absorbing and refining difficult, but it could also cause harm to the body. Because of this, both Han Hui and Zhang Tianxiang would circulate their spiritual power to separate themselves from the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in order to prevent it from seeping into their bodies. Even if it did seep into their bodies, they would have to spend time to remove it so that they wouldn't be harmed. What's going on over there, Yu Yuan? Isn't he cultivating with spirit stones? Why is the spiritual qi of heaven and earth madly rushing into his stone cave? Chapter 89. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The chaotic spiritual qi of heaven and earth seemed to be sucked into the cave. All of the trial takers who were cultivating nearby sensed that something was wrong, and woke up one after another. Following the surging spiritual qi of heaven and earth, all of them fixed their gazes on the cave Yu Yuan was in. Yu Yuan, big brother Yu? Is he the one who caused the abnormal spiritual qi? The young men and women from Dark Moon City, Cold Moon City, and Nether Moon City poked their heads out and looked around. Soon, they saw Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui, who both had grim expressions on their faces. Big brother Zhan, big sister Han, what's going on? Full of questions, they called out to Zhang Tianxiang. It's all right. You can all cultivate on your own, Zhang Tianxiang comforted. Yu Yuan's incantations are quite unique. You don't have to worry about him. I'll take care of him. Go back and continue your cultivation, Han Hui said softly. Although the trial takers from Cold Moon City and Nether Moon City were still surprised, they still believed in the two of them and returned to their caves one by one. In fact, the chaotic spiritual qi that Yu Yuan had caused to flow into his cave was beneficial to everyone. Since they couldn't absorb power from the chaotic spiritual qi of heaven and earth, they had to spare some of their spiritual power to prevent the chaotic spiritual qi from seeping into their cave. They didn't want to poison themselves. Yu Yuan's cave would take away the chaotic spiritual qi of heaven and earth, which would make their cultivation much smoother. Roar! All of a sudden, Yu Yuan's heart-wrenching roar echoed out from the cave he was in. The roar was filled with pain, impatience, uneasiness, and madness. It's all right. I said it's all right. Zhang Tianxiang shouted. However, Zhao Yafu, Yuanting, and Yu Feifei ignored him and tried to break into Yu Yuan's cave with anxious expressions. Boom! Fizz! Due to the conflict between the chaotic spiritual qi of heaven and earth in Yu Yuan's cave, it seemed to suddenly explode. There were gray, dark brown, white, and other colors of mist. They suddenly exploded, and smoke curled up and spread in all directions. Wisps of spiritual qi flew out of the cave and circled around it. Then, they were attracted by the cave again and poured into it. Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui were both baffled by what they saw. What kind of incantation is Yu Yuan practicing? The look in Han Hui's eyes grew increasingly strange as she asked. I have a feeling that he's channeling the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the fallen moon Forbidden Land. I have the same feeling, Zhang Tianxiang said. He's only in the spirit nurturing stage. Han Hui exclaimed in a low voice. He's only in the early spirit nurturing stage. At this stage, he's the most important thing. The spiritual qi is the spiritual qi, the forbidden is the fallen forbidden in the forbidden region. Such impure the spiritual qi is, it's such an impi, it's to absorbing qi is to him. Of course I understand. Zhang Tianxiang smiled bitterly. Should we remind him to calm down? Han Hui suggested. No, Zhang Tianxiang said. I think he knows what he's doing. With no other choice, Han Hui could only wait. It wasn't very long before the spiritual qi of heaven and earth madly poured into the cave. Yu Yuan let out roars that sounded like the roars of a dying beast. Only an hour later, everything calmed down. Yu Yuan didn't roar anymore. the chaotic spiritual chi of heaven and earth that had poured into the cave rapidly dissipated. Everything returned to normal, except for Yu Yuan, who was panting weakly in the cave. The others, who were worried about him, didn't wait any longer and rushed into the cave. In the spacious cave, Yu Yuan was almost naked. His clothes were torn to shreds, and his body was covered in scratches. The scratches were crimson, and some of them even had blood oozing out of them. Those scratches were obviously made by him. Only a large piece of cloth was wrapped around his waist and abdomen. He leaned against the cold, stone wall, his eyes bloodshot. Every time he breathed, his chest would rise and fall. It was as if he wanted to suck in all the air. The meridians on his neck, forehead, and arms flashed with incomparably clear ferocity under his skin. They were like evil dragons hiding under his skin, wriggling in his flesh, trying to break free and bite all the living beings in the world. He gave people an indescribably domineering feeling. Zhang Tianxiang, who had sharp eyes, could vaguely see that many areas under his skin had already split open. The veins in his arms were still twitching and trembling. Why did Yu Yuan seem to have suffered serious injuries during this short period of cultivation, as if he had been kneaded and torn apart by a powerful demon? Zhang Tianxiang, who had followed the ancient god Golden Elephant's body-tempering incantation when he was at the spirit-nurturing stage, suddenly asked, "Yu Yuan, how do you feel now?" "Don't worry, I won't die." Yu Yuan narrowed his eyes, feeling a bit powerless even when he spoke. "I need some time alone. Don't gather here and disturb my cultivation." "What kind of incantation are you practicing, big brother Yu?" Zhao Yafu clicked her tongue in wonder and shook her head. "It must be some extraordinary body-tempering incantation, right? It's really something. You can even channel the violent, chaotic, and impurities spiritual chi of this forbidden land." Puzzled, Han Hui ran her eyes over Yu Yuan's half-naked body. Clearly, she had questions to ask. Eyebrows furrowed, Yu Yuan looked at Han Hui as he said, "Get out of here, all of you. I'm practically naked. How long are you going to look at me?" "Bah." Han Hui gave him a hard look. Even though she was full of questions, she didn't ask any more. She took the lead and left. Under Yu Yuan's urging, the others also reluctantly left the cave. Zhang Tianxiang was the only one who refused to leave. When everyone had left and Yu Yuan was about to scold him, he chuckled and said, "Of the 3 continents in the Hauran continent, the best way to temper one's fleshly body at the spirit-nurturing stage is the northern part of the tranquil continent, where people practice demonic incantations and demon incantations by force. Demons have a unique advantage when it comes to tempering one's fleshly body. On the Tianyuan continent, the major sects might have a slight advantage when refining their yin and yang spirit. However, in the spirit-nurturing stage and the profound breaking stage, the demons' cultivation methods are better at unearthing the potential of their fleshly bodies." After a short pause, Zhang Tianxiang said seriously, "You should be able to tell that I've received ancient god Golden Elephant's acknowledgement, and the incantations I practice in the spirit-nurturing stage come from ancient god Golden Elephant. After all, I'm a human, not a demon. Therefore, the improved demon incantations still cause me so much pain that I wish I were dead. As for you, you don't practice demon incantations. If I'm not wrong, you practice demonic incantations, right? The empires and families of the Qianxian continent all had relationships with the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil continent. This was something everyone knew. The sects of the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil continent also viewed the Qianxian continent as a battlefield and a key place to select disciples. Because of this, it was normal to practice normal incantations, demonic incantations, or demon incantations in the Qianxian continent. There was no difference between good and evil. Just like Yuan Qiufang, those who practiced the scarlet refining demonic incantations didn't need to be afraid or avoid anything. The reason he locked himself in the secret room was because there was a problem with his cultivation. He would often go berserk and kill people. If there wasn't this problem, he could openly walk through Dark Moon City and come to the Empire's Silver Moon City. The ones that were viewed as enemies were sects like the Blood God that did whatever they wanted in the Qianxian continent. They killed as they pleased and used mortals and cultivators to refine their own souls. The Blood God wasn't very popular in the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil continent. In the Qianxian continent, the Empire's expressions changed when they talked about it. Cultivators like the Devil's Palace, the Goblin Temple, and the Red Devil School on the Tranquil continent were respected even in the Qianxian continent. In the Qianxian continent, there were 6 great empires, and even more families that maintained friendly relations with the Devil's Palace and the Goblin Temple. Therefore, there wasn't an absolute difference between good and evil in the Hauran continent. Otherwise, how would Zhang Tianxiang, who had received the Golden Elephant Ancient God's inheritance, dare to show his face in the Empire and act so recklessly? Yes, it's a demonic incantation, Yu Yuan said honestly. Zhang Tianxiang was happy instead of shocked. It really is a demonic incantation. How surprising. I heard that you've been in the Yu family in Dark Moon City for more than 10 years. Then, how did you get the demonic incantation? He felt more and more that Yu Yuan was full of mysteries, and that choosing to follow Yu Yuan was a wise choice. It's fine as long as you know it's a demonic incantation. Why are you asking so much? Yu Yuan pointed outside impatiently with narrowed eyes, indicating that he should get lost. All right. Zhang Tianxiang chuckled and left in satisfaction. With his back turned, he said, "No wonder I felt that I hit it off with you. So we're kindred spirit." Chapter 90. Once Zhang Tianxiang left, Yu Yuan trembled as he took out an origin spirit pill. He grimaced as he swallowed it in one gulp. Fiend body tempering art. He took a deep breath and sensed the medicinal efficacy of the origin spirit pill gradually spreading out and repairing his flesh and blood. In this new realm, he chose to temper his body called the fiend body tempering art. Just as Zhang Tianxiang had said, it was a demonic art. The fiend body tempering art originated from the fiend demon sect in the northern part of the Tranquil continent. This demonic sect used to be as famous as the Red Devil School and the Blood God. Once, the fiend demon sect was second only to the Devil's Palace and the Goblin Temple. Unfortunately, the sect had long since been destroyed. It was rumored that in the last conflict between the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil continent, the experts of the fiend demon sect dared to venture deep into the heart of the Tianyuan continent. However, they were ambushed and met a miserable end. The experts of the fiend demon sect died in the Tianyuan continent. When the various sects of the Tianyuan continent swarmed into the Tranquil continent, the fiend demon sect that had lost its experts was breached, its cultivation records burned, and its disciples killed. As a result, the fiend demon sect disappeared without a trace. Yu Yuan chose to temper his body with the fiend demon body tempering art when he was in the spirit vessel realm. This was because he had heard more than once that the fiend demon sect's method of tempering one's flesh and blood was unique. The demonic arts of the fiend demon sect might have many drawbacks in the Yin spirit, soul shadow, yang spirit, and freedom realms. But in terms of tempering one's body, the fiend demon body tempering art of the fiend demon sect was unparalleled. Because of this, before Yu Yuan reincarnated, he did everything he could to obtain the fiend demon body tempering art and imprinted it deeply into his earthly soul, so that he could study and cultivate it when he reached the spirit vessel realm. He knew the wonders and power of the fiend demon body tempering art, but because he didn't have the talent to cultivate in his previous life, he had never experienced the pain of cultivation. Therefore, he didn't know much about this body tempering art. It wasn't until he truly started cultivating, until just now, when he was enduring the pain of being cut into pieces, that he finally realized the terror and ferocity of the evil fiend body refining art. Never in his wildest dreams would he have expected that after he started the fiendish devil body refinement art, the chaotic spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the forbidden area would change as a result. This body refining technique drew in all kinds of chaotic spiritual energy, which contained all kinds of impurities and even toxins. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth regarded his flesh, bones, and tendons as a battlefield. They clashed with each other and rushed in all directions, destroying his flesh and bones within a very short time. The cultivation of the spirit nurture stage was to destroy and then rebuild. First, it would tear and injure the flesh and bones, before nourishing them with nourishment. But the damage of the evil fiend body refinement art was really too fierce, too tyrannical, too crazy. In just a quarter of an hour, Yu Yuan was tormented by the evil demon body refinement art, to the point of hovering between life and death, and his consciousness became blurry. If not for the fact that he had previously cultivated the extreme intelligent soul-forging technique, causing his heavenly soul to be refined and incomparably tough, firmly protecting his intelligence, he might have directly collapsed under that terrifying pain, jumping down from the cave and dying. That kind of pain in his flesh and bones was indeed unbearable for ordinary people. I only knew that the evil fiend body refinement art was powerful and unique, but I didn't expect that this technique. Yu Yuan pondered as he sensed the origin spirit pill's medicinal power flowing into his flesh, meridians, and bones, nourishing his injuries. Then, he suddenly thought of another possibility. No. If I had cultivated the evil fiend body refinement art elsewhere, it wouldn't have been so terrifying. Is it because this is the forbidden area of the fallen moon, or because the chaotic spiritual chi of heaven and earth here happens to be absorbed by the evil fiend body refinement art? All of a sudden, he came to a realization. Even on the tranquil continent, most of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was peaceful and orderly. Only in a very small number of places would the spiritual chi of heaven and earth become abnormally chaotic. There were also some special places where the spiritual chi of heaven and earth mixed with poisonous miasma. Once absorbed, one's flesh and blood would fester. In the fiend devil sect, the disciples who cultivated the evil fiend body refinement art probably wouldn't have chosen to cultivate in such a terrifying place. It could be said that he had stumbled upon a forbidden area where the spiritual chi of heaven and earth had gone out of control. Cultivating the evil fiend body refinement art in this heaven and earth is perhaps the most painful experience of my life, Yu Yuan muttered to himself as he gazed out of the cave. It's because my cultivation base is too low. If it were someone else cultivating here like me, they would probably be dead by now. The extreme wisdom soul-tempering art has been of great help to me. The refinement of my heavenly soul and my intelligence have allowed me to hold on. If I can hold on, with the help of the evil fiend body refinement art, the chaotic spiritual chi of heaven and earth, and the origin spirit pill, I might be able to surpass everyone in the spirit nurture stage. I might even be able to obtain the strongest physique among my peers on the tranquil continent. With these thoughts in mind, the light of determination burst forth from the depths of Yu Yuan's eyes. This is the place. In his previous life, the fiend devil sect had been wiped out and ceased to exist. In fact, he didn't know the peculiarities and dangers of the evil fiend body refinement art. When the fiend devil sect cultivators cultivated the evil fiend body refinement art in the spirit nurture stage, they would never dare to choose a place where the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was chaotic and chaotic. There were only two special realms in which cultivators paid special attention to the refinement of their physique: the spirit nurture stage and the shattering stage. In the spirit nurture stage, the 12 meridians were unobstructed and one could use the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to refine one's muscles, bones, and flesh. In the shattering stage, The 8 meridians were also unobstructed, and the profound door to the middle dantian opened. The essence of one's chi and blood could flow through the 8 meridians into the deepest parts of one's flesh and organs. When the Fiend Devil sect cultivators cultivated the evil fiend body refinement art, they would purposely choose a place where the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was chaotic and violent during the shattering stage. This was because the Fiend Devil sect cultivators had already strengthened and refined their flesh and blood in the spirit nurture stage. The Fiend Devil sect cultivators, who were known for their strong physique, only dared to go to such extremes during the shattering stage, relying on their strong physique to choose such a dangerous place to cultivate. Yu Yuan, because the Fiend Devil sect had been destroyed for too long and the evil fiend body refinement art he had obtained was not a disciple of the Fiend Devil sect, so he didn't know its secrets. When he started cultivating in the spirit nurture stage, nothing had happened. However, at this stage, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was chaotic and out of control. Coincidentally, it created a cultivation environment that was fatal to him. He didn't know anything about it. Relying on the refinement of his soul and his undying intelligence, he forced himself to cultivate. After that, Yu Yuan used 2 origin spirit pills to nourish his body. He lay in the cave for half a day before he could truly stand up. Supported by Zhang Tianxiang, he followed the main group and continued on their journey. 2 days later, the injuries he suffered during his first cultivation of the evil fiend body refinement art were finally healed. He once again found a cave and went to cultivate the evil fiend body refinement art as if he was torturing himself a second time. Again, he wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf. Before long, he was on the verge of death again. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and he couldn't move. When Zhang Tianxiang came in and saw his miserable appearance, he couldn't help but feel deep veneration for him. "You're too cruel to yourself. When I cultivated demonic arts to refine my body, I wasn't like you, hovering between life and death every time." Yu Yuan didn't even have the strength to answer. However, he miraculously discovered that, despite his serious injuries, he had already adapted to the chaotic spiritual qi environment in the forbidden area. Zhang Tianxiang, Han Hui, Zhao Yafu, and the others were under great pressure. However, he no longer felt uncomfortable in this harsh environment. His body, which had been refined twice, seemed to have undergone an astonishing transformation without him realizing it. Chapter 91. Fan Li. Another group of people, led by Li Yu, caught sight of the young master of the Fan clan under the cold moonlight. Fan Li stood alone in the silver-white wasteland, his garments fluttering in the cold wind. After removing his disguise, he regained his usual handsome looks. His unique aura seemed to blend in with the moonlight, making him look like an immortal. The girls from the other clans and the other cities looked at him under the moonlight with fascinated looks in their eyes. "You're finally here." Fan Li let out a sigh, grief filling his eyes. "I'm the only survivor of the Fan clan. Not long ago, I ran into Zhang Tianxiang, Han Hui, and Yu Yuan from Dark Moon City. Yu Yuan thought I was too troublesome, so he drove me away. I thought I wouldn't be able to get out of this forbidden land alive." With a low sigh, he added some embellished words of pain and resentment. Only after he finished did he look at Li Yu and the others. Li Yu's expression was indifferent. He didn't even say a word. Li Yuan let out a cold harumph. Yu Yuan is indeed hard to like. If it weren't for him, it would have been safer for us to stick together. Yen Lu from the Yen clan crossed his arms and said, "Even though Yu Yuan doesn't fit in with the group, he's a real man. He even abandoned us, not to mention you. I don't think there's anything wrong with him not wanting to go with you." Su Yen expressed her opinion. Lin Zhuyun, however, remained silent. Fan Li was taken aback. He had thought that many people would berate Yu Yuan, and even implicate Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui. Who would have thought that, except for Li Yuan from the Li clan, everyone's reaction was different from what he had expected. Soon, he realized that something must have happened between them and Yu Yuan. Therefore, he asked, "Did Yu Yuan and you run into those abominations?" "Even though I don't want to admit it, if it weren't for Yu Yuan, we would have suffered a lot," Su Yan said. "After all, Li Yu hadn't returned yet. It would have been very difficult for us to deal with those outsider souls." Yan Lu, Lin Zhuyun, and many others nodded slightly. They all acknowledged Yu Yuan's strength in the depths of their hearts, but he despised his character. "Fan Li, if you want to come with us, you have to listen to my arrangements," Li Yu finally said. "If you don't want to, you can leave on your own." Most of the time, Li Yu didn't want to take the lead. He didn't want to be the leader. He didn't want to do things that were strenuous and unrewarding. It was different this time. Everyone present was the future of the empire. With the invasion of a foreign entity, it was possible that the future of the empire would be destroyed. As the hope of the Li family's new generation, he was duty-bound. He had to stand up and lead everyone out of this place alive. Furthermore, he knew some things about Fan Li. He knew that Fan Li was a piece of rat **t, and if things went wrong, he might cause the deaths of many people. Therefore, he didn't hold back at all. He even felt that if it weren't for his status in the Li family, he would have made the same choice as Yu Yuan. "Banish Fan Li." "Boss Li, what are you talking about?" Fan Li laughed awkwardly. "Of course I'll listen to your arrangements. How can Yu Yuan be compared to you? Yu Yuan can't command me, but you can." "That's good then." Li Yu nodded his head indifferently. The cold moon grew longer and longer in the fallen moon Forbidden Land. Along with the howling wind, the rampaging spiritual chi of heaven and earth wreaked havoc on all living beings. Everyone who was hurrying towards the entrance of the Forbidden Land found it increasingly difficult to walk. Every now and then they would have to rest and recuperate. Zhao Yafu, Zhang Tianxiang, and Han Hui, who had reached the Golden Hall stage, were still able to adapt. They didn't have to rest every once in a while and absorb spiritual power from spirit stones to recover. That was all spirit-nurturing stage cultivators could do. Another heart-wrenching roar came from the cave where Yu Yuan was, as if the demon beasts in the northern part of the tranquil continent were being skinned alive. Soon, the cave returned to silence. This time, Zhang Tianxiang didn't rush to visit him. Instead, he stood at the entrance of another cave with Han Hui. "Does Yu Yuan practice demonic incantations?" Han Hui could no longer suppress the doubts in her heart. Normally, a spirit-nurturing stage cultivator wouldn't be as miserable as him, right? According to the legends, only demonic incantations and demon incantations are accompanied by excruciating pain. "Sorry, I can't give you an answer," Zhang Tianxiang said with a smile. "Won't he be too slow?" Han Hui frowned slightly. "We've been taking care of him recently. Since he's on the verge of death every time he finishes his cultivation, our journey has been slowed down." That was indeed the case at the beginning. Zhang Tianxiang changed the topic and said with a smile, "But now, he's not holding us back. The other spirit-nurturing stage cultivators from Yuhui City and Cold Moon City are all holding us back." Han Hui asked curiously, "But he needs your help to move forward with difficulty?" "There are some things that you don't know and don't need to know." Zhang Tianxiang grinned and said to Han Hui, "Believe me, he's more adapted to this harsh environment than anyone else. I even feel that anyone below the Golden Hall stage who fights him in the Forbidden Land will definitely die." Han Hui looked at him as if she was looking at an idiot. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Zhang Tianxiang didn't explain. During this period of time, every time Yu Yuan finished his cultivation, he would lead Yu Yuan forward with the group, instead of Zhao Yafu. He knew better than anyone that Yu Yuan hadn't used a single wisp of his spiritual power to protect himself. Everyone else, including him and Han Hui, had to circulate their spiritual power to protect their Dantian regions. They didn't want to accidentally absorb the raging spiritual power that contained impurities, which would harm their internal organs and bones. Every time Yu Yuan was on the verge of death, he had to be supported by Zhang Tianxiang as they moved forward. Sometimes blood would seep out of the wounds. However, Yu Yuan didn't summon her spiritual power to protect herself from the raging spiritual qi of heaven and earth. He didn't react at all when the raging spiritual power that would harm anyone present infiltrated his flesh and bones. It was as if he was completely immune to it. What did this mean? As long as he was in the forbidden land of the fallen moons, he wouldn't need to pay extra attention to defend himself from the raging spiritual power. Moreover, Zhang Tianxiang could faintly feel that Yu Yuan seemed to be able to absorb and purify the violent and terrifying spiritual qi in this out-of-control forbidden area. She could get rid of the impurities and extract the essence. "I'm done." Yu Yuan's voice sounded as weak as a strand of silk, as if he were about to stop breathing. Without the slightest hesitation, Zhang Tianxiang rushed into his cave. Looking at Nie Tian, who was covered in wounds and bleeding from his chest, waist, and abdomen, he praised, "You're much fiercer than I am." "I think we've been targeted," Yu Yuan said all of a sudden. Zhang Tianxiang's expression flickered. "What?" Yu Yuan lowered his head and looked at his arms. Feeling the scorching heat from the sword light, he said, "Those people like Zhu Huan and Lu Ling should be loitering around here, and have already learned of our location and existence." After a moment of astonishment, Zhang Tianxiang asked with a strange expression, "How did you know?" "My intuition. I hate your intuition the most because it turns out to be the truth." With these words, Zhang Tianxiang looked at Nie Tian, who had sustained serious injuries from his cultivation, and asked, "Can you do it? Can you still launch your final attack?" "I can stall them for a while," Yu Yuan said. "There's something I need to talk to you about." With these words, Zhang Tianxiang took a deep breath and told Nie Tian about the legend of the impending change of the empire. "That thing should be called the Moon Devil." The Moon Devil. Chapter 92. Moon Devil. Yu Yuan's face was full of shock as he subconsciously looked up at the crescent moon hanging high in the night sky. Zhang Tianxiang went blank for a moment before saying, "You're overreacting." Recently, because Yu Yuan had been cultivating the fiend body tempering art, Zhang Tianxiang had to support him every time he was seriously injured. The two of them had gradually developed a tacit understanding. As for Zhang Tianxiang, Yu Yuan gradually began to admire him. Zhang Tianxiang also had the intention of becoming friends with Yu Yuan. "Why is the Moon Devil in the Silver Moon Empire?" Yu Yuan frowned as he pointed at the sky. "Shouldn't that thing be up there?" He was pointing at the crescent moon. Zhang Tianxiang turned pale with shock. "What do you mean?" "Devils are divided into three types: human devils, earth devils, and heavenly devils. Don't tell me you don't know this?" Yu Yuan looked at him. "The so-called human devils are those of the human race who cultivate devil incantations. Although human devils are also called devils, they are still humans at heart. Earth devils, on the other hand, refer to the evil spirits, baleful souls, evil ghosts, and other strange creatures that are born in many strange places in the vast heaven and earth. When they master cultivation methods, they undergo heaven-shaking, earth-toppling transformations and become devils. As long as they are in Howren, all non-human devils and monsters are called earth devils. In addition, there are heavenly devils. Heavenly devils, on the other hand, are devils and monsters that have left the vastness of heaven and earth. As far as I know, the Moon Devil is a kind of devil spirit up there." Yu Yuan was still pointing at the crescent moon. "The Moon Devil is also classified as a heavenly devil. There is no difference between human devils, earth devils, and heavenly devils. The Devil's Palace in the northern part of the Tranquil Continent is mainly composed of human devils. The human experts who cultivate devil incantations call themselves the Orthodox Devils. Human devils take pride in controlling earth devils and heavenly devils. Many Devil's Palace cultivators travel all over Hauran in search of earth devils to cultivate their demonic art. Cultivators who have reached the soul-traversing realm, even if their bodies don't move, their soul can wander thousands of miles away. Their sense of smell towards all kinds of devil spirits and devil creatures is extremely sensitive. And once the yang spirit is cultivated, it can even leave the Hauran world and go to the outer space to hunt heavenly demons. Whether it's the Tianyuan continent or the Tranquil Continent, once a great cultivator condenses their sun spirit, the first thing they do is break through the boundaries of the continent and enter the outer space. When the yang spirit is cruising in outer space, it's very easy to encounter devils from the outside world, which is also known as the heavenly devil. I've heard that there are many demons on the bright moon hanging above our heads. They are known as the moon demons. The moon demons seem to have been encircled once before and were almost completely wiped out. Why is there a moon demon in the Silver Moon Empire? Yu Yuan asked curiously. Although he hadn't cultivated in his previous life, his outstanding talent in alchemy had allowed him to maintain a close relationship with the sects of the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil Continent. Because of this, he knew a lot of secrets. According to the information he'd received, the moon demons weren't particularly strong among the heavenly demons of the outside world. There were even rumors that the moon demons that lived on the bright moon had been completely wiped out. Of course, the moon demons were definitely unfamiliar to the Qian continent. The reason was that the yang spirit was rarely seen in the Qian continent. Cultivators who could reach the yang spirit level would have entered the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil Continent a long time ago and wouldn't stay for long. This also meant that the Qian continent couldn't come into contact with the battles between the great cultivators of the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil Continent and the heavenly demons of the outside world. Since they couldn't even come into contact with the heavenly demons, it was naturally impossible for them to understand the mysteries within. Moon demons, the heavenly demons of the outside world. Zhang Tianxiang's face darkened. That's right. They should be the devils you said came from outer space. Could it be that you've forgotten what this place is called? The Fallen Moon Forbidden Land, Zhang Tianxiang said loudly. Yu Yuan snapped out of his daze and said, I almost forgot that a fragment of the moon fell into this place a long, long time ago, and created the Forbidden Land of the Fallen Moons. According to the legends, the moon demons are in a state of hibernation, so they must be somewhere in the Forbidden Land. For some reason, the moon demons woke up from their slumber. That's it, Zhang Tianxiang said. Moon demons are a branch of the heavenly demons that almost went extinct on the moon, their homeland. Yu Yuan rubbed his chin. They can only do as they please in the Silver Moon Empire on the Qian continent. If they were near the Devil's Palace, they would have been devoured by those who cultivate demonic incantations and refined into soul strands long ago. You seem to know a lot about the Tranquil Continent, Zhang Tianxiang said quietly. Yeah. You can tell that I cultivate demonic incantations. Yu Yuan relaxed after learning about the outsider soul's origins. Go inform Han Hui and the others to prepare. If the moon demons in the trial takers of Waning Moon City come, just kill them. All right. Li Yu suddenly stopped. The soul-sacrificing orb that he had hidden in his sleeve suddenly floated out of its own accord and spun in front of his chest. Everyone's gazes were instantly focused on the soul-sacrifice orb. Inside the soul-sacrificing orb, many complicated soul threads twisted and turned, as if they were telling Li Yu some kind of secret. At first, Li Yu's expression was calm. Dozens of seconds later, his eyes gradually turned serious, as if he saw great danger inside the soul sacrifice orb. After a while, the soul sacrifice orb suddenly shook violently, and the soul strands inside twisted together into balls. "What's going on, brother you?" Many Li family clansmen rarely saw such an expression on Li Yu's face. They all felt uneasy and nervous. "It's different from the other souls I encountered before." Li Yu didn't look at anyone. He was still staring at the soul sacrifice orb. "It's also a soul, but this one is too strong." "How strong?" Yen Lu's expression changed. "I'm not sure." Li Yu's expression was grim. "My soul sacrifice orb shouldn't be able to deal with it. Unless we severely injure it first and weaken its soul, even forcibly absorbing it will cause the orb to explode. It's that strong." Fan Li also grew nervous. The other souls we encountered were definitely not as strong as this one. Otherwise, I wouldn't have survived. "It's approaching us." Li Yu looked in a direction. "It's not very fast." At the same time, Zhan Tianxiang, who was on high alert, suddenly noticed Yu Yuan. His face was full of shock. "The soul that's been watching us seems to be moving away. It seems to have found a new target." Yu Yuan's heavenly soul entered the sword beam and vaguely captured a vague message. From it, he learned that the moon demon was pulling away from them. "Fan Li? He went to find Fan Li, didn't he?" Zhan Tianxiang said gloatingly. "Then let's take this opportunity to leave." Han Hui said anxiously. "With our speed, we'll be targeted sooner or later." Yu Yuan's expression was grim as he thought to himself. "If it's not Fan Li and we're the ones who escaped, where are the others?" Everyone suddenly fell silent. Chapter 93. The moonlight was icy cold. A slender figure walked through the air, leaving afterimages behind her with every step she took. The moonlight was like water that poured onto her body, disappearing in an instant. She seemed to be devouring the moonlight. A moment later, she stood in the air with the moon hanging over her head. Below her was Li Yu and the other trial takers. Li Yu abruptly raised his head, holding the soul-sacrificing orb in his hand. Shock filled his face, but his tone was unusually calm. "Feng Xian! Feng Xian!" Everyone finally realized that the uninvited guest was the leader of the trial takers in Waning Moon City. "It's not you." Feng Xian's eyes were like two green lanterns that burned in her pupils. She spoke softly in an ancient language as she glanced at one trial taker after another. Everyone's hearts turned cold as they stared at Feng Xian, who was standing still in the air. They had already guessed that the soul that Li Yu had mentioned, the one that even the soul-sacrificing orb couldn't suppress, was Feng Xian. "What kind of creature are you?" Li Yuan of the Li family shouted beside Li Yu. "The forbidden land of Fallen Moon has been the Silver Moon Empire's territory since ancient times. I don't care who or what you are, you won't be able to escape from us if you dare to cause trouble in our territory." "Since ancient times? The Silver Moon Empire's territory?" Feng Xian said softly. "I can't believe that the Silver Moon Empire thinks this forbidden land is your territory? Ridiculous." She suddenly looked at Li Yuan. Green flames flickered in the depths of her eyes. The chaotic spiritual qi of heaven and earth around Li Yuan converged into a waterfall and rushed towards him from under his feet. Like a gray dragon, it pushed Li Yuan into the sky and brought him to Feng Xian's eyes. "This land has always belonged to our Moonfiend clan." Feng Xian looked at him and said word by word in a voice that everyone could hear and understand. As she spoke, Li Yuan felt as if he had been cut to pieces. Blood flowed down from the sky like a river, scarlet and poignant. Li Yuan's eyes widened. He wanted to say something, but no words came out. "Moon Devil! Moon Devil!" Down below, Su Yen, Yen Lu, and the other chosen ones of the Empire finally came to their senses after she revealed her identity. Just like Han Hui and Zhan Tianxiang, They also recalled the ancient legend and their expressions changed. The cold night stretched on endlessly. The moon demon awoke from his deep slumber. The country might be replaced. The moon demon had already awakened. The cold night seemed to be endless. The world was cold and harsh. Did these signs really indicate that the Silver Moon Empire was about to be overthrown? At this point, they suddenly realized that a calamity had probably occurred within the empire. Perhaps the elders of his family, the army, and Her Majesty the Empress were all under pressure from the moon demon outside? Boom! Li Yuan's corpse fell from the sky and smashed into the icy ground. No matter how powerful she is, the method is the same. Yen Lu forced himself to calm down and said, "Kill this body of hers and force the moon demon to come out. Without a fleshly body, only the soul of the moon demon remains. Then, I'll sacrifice the soul sphere and use techniques and artifacts that target the soul to kill it." With these words, he summoned the soul-severing stick and aimed it at Feng Xian from afar. All of a sudden, the soul-breaking staff radiated gold and silver light, releasing an aura that could suppress souls. Then it shot out. This stick, Feng Xian was slightly surprised. Looking at Yen Lu, she asked, "What's it called?" Soul-severing stick. No, that's not right. Feng Xian shook her head. It's not called break, it's called split. The soul-severing stick is an artifact that can separate the three souls of heaven, earth, and man. This soul-severing stick should have come from this forbidden land. Unfortunately, you're too weak. She said the soul-severing stick's true name with great familiarity. When the stick was about to reach her, she suddenly extended a finger and tapped it lightly. Her fingertip touched the tip of the soul-severing stick. Zlotsla! Thousands of sparkling green lightning bolts wrapped around the soul-severing stick, drowning the golden and silver light on it and filling the patterns engraved on it. Then, she gently gripped the soul-severing stick and looked at the shocked Yen Lu. This artifact is very lethal to human cultivators, but it doesn't have much effect on us moon devils. Shoo! The soul-severing stick shot out like a beam of green lightning. Watch out! While everyone exclaimed, Yen Lu didn't have time to defend himself. He could only try his best to dodge. The soul-severing stick pierced through his abdomen like a sword, instantly injuring him. Who's Fanli? Feng Xian looked around, but didn't look at Yen Lu. When she asked Fanli, many people subconsciously turned to look at her. Fanli cursed inwardly. So it's you. Feng Xian looked over and raised her hand, as if she wanted to grab something. Mixed spiritual chi of heaven and earth madly gathered and morphed into a giant hand. It suddenly grabbed Fanli like an eagle grabbing a chick, and lifted him into the air. Li Yu! Help me! In midair, Fanli struggled with all his might, seeking help. In his heart, only Li Yu had a slight chance of rescuing him from Feng Xian's clutches. Since Feng Xian was too far away, the people on the ground couldn't get close to her. Only an artifact could hurt her. Come out! A short, cyan sword that seemed to have been nurtured in Li Yu's middle dantian and refined day and night by his flesh aura suddenly flew out of his chest. The short sword was only half the length of an arm, but it gave off a fierce feeling that it could pierce through the heavens and pierce through everything. The cyan profound sword! Su Yen exclaimed softly. Her eyes gradually lit up, as if they were burning with the light of hope. The cyan profound sword, one of the Empire's most precious treasures. The cyan profound sword. I can't believe the Li family gave the cyan profound sword to Li Yu. The most precious treasure of the Empire. The trial takers on the ground exclaimed when they saw the cyan short sword shooting towards Feng Xian. The cyan profound sword pierced through the air like a streak of cyan light. It was extremely fast. The sword intent emanating from the short sword caused the moonlit sky to crackle. It was as if many holes had been opened in space, unable to withstand the fierce sword intent. Puff! The giant hand formed by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth suddenly exploded after the cyan profound sword slashed through it. Meanwhile, Fanli fell from midair. In the next moment, the cyan profound sword had already pierced through Feng Xian's heart. Even she couldn't avoid it. However, the green light in Feng Xian's eyes did not dim. She lowered her head and looked at the Qingxian sword that pierced through her heart. Only the handle was left. She said softly, "This body is not mine. I am not human. I won't die even if it pierced through my heart." As she spoke, she slowly reached out her hand to grab the cyan profound sword. Countless fine green lightning bolts were entwined around her 5 fingers. The faces of the people on the ground paled as they heard her words and saw her actions. They suddenly remembered that Zhu Huan and Lu Ling had both been blasted into pieces before the lunar demon had escaped. Feng Xian, who was in the sky, was much stronger than those two. Who could possibly turn her into minced meat? However, having her heart and lungs pierced through didn't seem to affect her much. Suddenly, a familiar yet strange voice sounded from afar. "You stabbed the wrong person. Don't stab her heart. Stab between her eyebrows and smash her brain. Yu Yuan! Yu Yuan!" Chapter 94. Yu Yuan's arrival lifted everyone's spirit. Everyone looked in the direction where the voice had come from, and saw a group of 4 people emerge from the depths of the gray smoke. Apart from Yu Yuan, there was also Zhan Tianxiang, Zhao Yafu, and Han Hui. However, Zhan Tianxiang and Han Hui looked reluctant. "If the moon demon doesn't die, no one will be able to leave." After Yu Yuan appeared, he said helplessly, "They're too fast and we're too slow. We're too close to each other. With the moon demon's speed, he can still catch up to us after killing them. We can't avoid him. Why don't we fight him? Maybe we'll have a chance to survive." He said what he thought. From the moment he sensed the moon demon, he knew that the strongest one was not only able to fly through the air, but also continue to grow stronger because of the power of the moon. Even if Li Yu was there, they probably wouldn't be able to deal with such a moon demon. Once the moon demon killed Li Yu, Su Yan, Yen Lu, and the others, he would definitely be able to catch up to him. At that time, the moon demon would have recovered with the power of the moon. They probably wouldn't have much chance of surviving. After seeing through the situation, he persuaded Zhan Tianxiang, Han Hui, and Zhao Yafu to gather their strongest forces and come here. While they were moving, the moon demon in Han Hui's body deliberately slowed down as he approached Li Yu and the others. He was afraid that they wouldn't be able to make it. This meant that the moon demon was confident that he could kill everyone at once. "Fanli," Yu Yuan, Feng Xian muttered as her green eyes roamed around the two of them. Suddenly, she no longer paid any attention to the azure profound sword that was stabbed into her chest. She formed a hand seal with both hands. A bright light suddenly shone from his palm. Moonfall blade. The cold moon hanging high in the night sky suddenly became much brighter. The falling moonlight rushed towards the hand seals in Feng Xian's hands like a silver waterfall. The hand seals she formed were as bright as a silver plate. They were originally one piece but suddenly exploded. Fragments of the silver plate shot down from the sky like silver blades. "Scatter!" Li Yu shouted. Light flowed around his body, guiding the Qingxian sword. The Qingxian sword was vibrating violently in front of Feng Xian's chest. However, it was as if it was stuck in a rock and could not break free. As for the silver blades of light that shot over, they were like a rain of blades and swords, instantly piercing many of the trial takers that had gathered there to death. In the blink of an eye, a third of the elites from the major clans in this area were killed. Many more were hit by the silver blades, and more or less suffered injuries. Feng Xian pointed at Fanli and Yu Yuan in the air. The crescent-shaped light blades suddenly split into a dozen or so pieces, forming a rotating light blade storm that swept towards Fan Li and Yu Yuan. Damn it, why are you targeting me? Fan Li turned around and ran. As he ran, pieces of spiritual armor formed naturally and covered his back, waist, and neck, covering his vital areas. The pieces of spiritual armor were as black jade and emitted a dark and heavy aura. Within the spiritual armor, he could vaguely see a few ancient magical symbols that seemed to have been lost long ago. Clang! 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 The blade of light that Feng Xian had summoned struck his back and struck his black jade-like spirit armor, causing sparks to fly and crisp sounds to ring out. Fan Li only staggered, grunted, and spat out a small mouthful of blood. Another wave of silver blades flew towards Yu Yuan, who had just arrived and was still far away from the main group. From the looks of it, it was like a rolling wheel made of blades. Let me do it. Zhan Tianxiang had a long face as he stood in front of Yu Yuan to deal with the silver blades of light. Let me do it. A gentle and soft voice suddenly rang out. In the next moment, Su Yen appeared, wearing the divine feather heavenly robe. The divine feather heavenly robe had the effect of invisibility when wrapped around her. Only those in the subtle realm and the Yin God realm could sense her. When Yu Yuan appeared and Feng Xian started her massacre, she had put on the divine feather heavenly robe and moved to Yu Yuan's side, ready to help Yu Yuan block Feng Xian's fierce attack. She did this because she knew that Yu Yuan would be of great use if he was alive. Even the soul sacrifice sphere might not be able to seal the Moon Devil's soul. Perhaps Yu Yuan's inexplicable attacks might be able to severely injure the Moon Devil's soul. She placed her hopes on Yu Yuan, which was why she secretly protected Yu Yuan so that he wouldn't die in a hurry. Whoosh! Su Yen spread her wings, and wisps of light flowed through her feathers. A holy, majestic, and solemn aura was released from her and the divine feather heavenly robe. Feather shield. White holy light burst out of every feather and formed in front of Su Yen. They formed a shield of light. Strange patterns could be seen on the surface of the shield of light. They seemed to be mysterious formations that had been engraved on the shield of light with some secret technique. The storm-like silver blades released by Feng Xian rolled on the shield of light, causing the area in front of her to explode with dazzling light. Even Yu Yuan found it dazzling. He didn't dare to stare at it for too long, and then turned his gaze back to Feng Xian. The sword light that was branded on his bones was incomparably hot. A sword intent and sword soul that had to be released was being born in one of his arms. He could clearly feel that the will of the heavenly soul was resonating with the sword intent and sword soul. Feng Xian, who was still killing, suddenly showed a trace of panic in her green lantern-like eyes. At this moment, the Qingxian's sword that was stabbed into her chest finally pierced through her body and flew out from her back. Li Yu, who had been controlling the Qingxian's sword with all his might, immediately sat on the ground. Sword intent surged all over his body, and his hands continuously beat the air. The blood, qi, and spirit energy in his palms resonated with the Qingxian sword. The Qingxian sword suddenly responded with a sword cry. Fizz! Fizz! Beams of cyan sword light slashed out of the Qingxian sword like sharp sighs. Suddenly, Feng Xian was badly mutilated. The left side of her body had been cut off by the cyan sword light. However, moonlight suddenly shone from the cut on Feng Xian's body. Feng Xian leaned over, and the cut half of her body was glued back to her body like a magnet. Even the wound couldn't be seen. Feng Xian recovered to her original state. The trace of panic in her eyes also disappeared. So it wasn't Fan Li but you. She looked over from afar. The moment she looked over, her graceful body that was floating in the air moved, even though there was no wind. She went straight for Yu Yuan. At this moment, both Li Yu and Fan Li seemed to have become insignificant figures. She only wanted to kill Yu Yuan. Fan Li let out a sigh of relief and laughed soundlessly. Haha, it wasn't me. Even among the heavenly devils in the outside world, You moon devils aren't the strongest. Eyes narrowed, Yu Yuan looked at Feng Xian and said, I can't believe that there are still some of you in the forbidden land of the fallen moons. So what? Do you really think you can survive every time you commit evil in Howren? Do you really want to be wiped out? Yu Yuan asked aloud. Chapter 95. Shameless Boasting. Feng Xian moved horizontally in midair, thousands of tiny green lightning bolts fluttering like ribbons on her clothes. Green flames burned fiercely in the depths of her eyes. Vaguely, a cluster of gray figures could be seen screaming miserably in the green flames, as if their souls were being ignited to boost her aura. The ignited gray figures were the real Feng Xian's 3 souls. The Moon Devil, who had possessed Feng Xian, walked through heaven and earth with her body, and strengthened herself with her soul. Zlotsla! All of a sudden, the thousands of tiny green lightning bolts surrounding her split into hundreds. The hundreds of tiny lightning bolts morphed into curvaceous young girls in green garments in midair. Some of them held Pipa in their arms, some danced, some whispered, and some waved their long swords. The hundreds of girls were all dressed in green garments, and upon closer inspection, they all looked like Su Yan. However, they were only 1/3 the size of Su Yan's true body. At first glance, however, there were hundreds of Su Yans swarming towards Yu Yuan from all directions, which was rather strange. Su Yan, who was shielding Yu Yuan with her divine feather heavenly robe and her wide wings, suddenly blushed as she cursed in a low voice, "Shameless devil from another realm." Zhan Tianxiang and Han Hui were also dumbfounded, because, among the hundreds of little Su Yan, there were a dozen or so little people who were completely naked and smooth. They still looked like Su Yan. The dozen or so Su Yan among the hundreds of little Su Yans looked incomparably dazzling. Their skin was as fair as jade, which made them want to take a look at them. It was as if the hundreds of little Su Yans were there to set them off. Naturally, the Moon Devil had done this on purpose because she was deeply evil. Zhan Tianxiang couldn't help but sneak a glance at the dozen little Su Yans. Even Su Yan herself and Han Hui instinctively took a few more glances at the dozen little Su Yans. The more they looked, the more they couldn't help but want to take a closer look. At this moment, Feng Xian, who had been possessed by the Moon Devil, disappeared into thin air. "Don't look!" Yu Yuan suddenly shouted. His voice was like a great bell, ringing in everyone's minds. With this loud shout, his heaven soul trembled and faintly resonated with the soul remembrance of the sword light on his arm. It reached straight into one's heart and soul. Zhan Tianxiang, Su Yan, and Han Hui were instantly awakened. They immediately realized that they had been unknowingly bewitched by the Moon Demon. At the crucial moment of the battle, their minds were actually thinking about other things. His thoughts and attention were all diverted away. Moon Demon. Apart from Yu Yuan, the other person who was not bewitched was actually Zhao Yafu. She was still young, so when she saw a little Su Yan holding a pipa and playing it with all her might, her face quietly changed and turned back into Feng Xian's appearance. Feng Xian, or rather, the Moon Devil, who had disappeared, seemed to have reappeared through little Su Yan. Clang! The sound of the pipa suddenly became rapid and high-pitched. It was like an army of thousands of galloping horses, suppressing all other sounds. The next second, in the depths of everyone's minds, the terrifying scene of billions of soldiers charging over, the rolling yellow sand, the dark sky, and the earth rumbling and shaking appeared uncontrollably. The killing aura, the determination and viciousness of the army that wanted to destroy the world, turned into a flood that charged towards everyone's 3 souls. Han Hui held her head and was the first to scream in fear. Her mental defenses collapsed in one blow. She could not protect her heart at all. Golden light strangely appeared between Zhan Tianxiang's eyebrows. Then, the totem of the ancient god of Golden Elephant flashed and helped him resist the soul flood of the Moon Devil. Su Yen groaned, and the wings that she had spread out suddenly retracted. The wings completely closed her, making her look like she was hiding inside a giant egg covered in white feathers. Yu Yuan, on the other hand, was naturally abandoned when she was faced with the threat of death. Yu Yuan stood outside of the white feathers. Be careful. After warning Zhao Yafu, Yu Yuan sneered and pointed his right hand at Feng Xian, who was playing the pipa. The bones in his arm suddenly became as red as burning iron, burning fiercely. The sword aura that was branded on his bones was like a burning sun in an instant, releasing a blinding light. Everyone could see that in Yu Yuan's right arm, there were finger-sized specks of light shining brightly one after another, as if they were suns. After being refined, they were shrunk by millions of times and sealed in the joints of her arm. At the same time, a strand of boundless, vast, and ancient sword insight filled the heavens and the earth. This space, this part of the world, seemed to be unable to contain that sword intent. The chaotic spirit chi of heaven and earth became 1,000 times more violent after that sword intent was born. Many little Su Yans were torn to pieces by the chaotic spirit chi of heaven and earth in an instant. They turned into green light spots that sputtered in all directions and turned into ashes before falling to the ground. On the other side, Li Yu, Yen Lu, Lin Zhuyun and the other trial-takers of the empire were stunned. Yu Yuan was still Yu Yuan. His appearance hadn't changed, his height hadn't changed, and his status hadn't changed. However, the second he pointed at Feng Xian, everything seemed to have changed. In everyone's eyes, Yu Yuan at this moment was like a great sword immortal who had walked out of ancient times. With the sword intent of the heaven opening and the sword aura that looked down on all living beings, he cut heaven and earth, set the rules of the Tao of the sword, and enlightened the human race. The sword spirit inside the Qingxian sword that had returned to Li Yu's hand was buzzing, like a junior saying something to an elder. Hundreds of little Su Yans turned into green light spots and were torn to pieces by the sword intent. Only Feng Xian, who was holding the pipa, was left. The thin green lightning bolts that surrounded her were the first to disintegrate and disappear. Then, Feng Xian's fleshly body was washed by countless raging spirit chi. Puff, puff, puff. Explosions kept coming from inside Feng Xian's body. Green smoke, mixed with drops of blood, pieces of flesh, and bone fragments, spread out from that direction. Feng Xian grabbed the green smoke with one hand and the moonlight in the sky with the other. The moonlight flowed through her fingers like water, but didn't disappear. Clusters of green smoke mixed with her flesh and bones also gradually left her body. After 10 meters, the green smoke dissipated, leaving nothing behind. Sigh. A sigh came from inside Feng Xian's head. Crack! A crisp sound came from inside Feng Xian's head, and then it exploded. A cluster of green shadows flew out of it and turned into millions of green light spots a second later. Moon Devil! The Moon Devil that escaped. The Moon Devil's fragmentary soul! Everyone exclaimed in unison. They were extremely excited, and felt that victory was in sight. Those who had seen Yu Yuan's attack all believed that in the next moment, those millions of green light spots would be extinguished, and all of their soul wills would be killed. However, Yu Yuan, who they had placed high hopes on and was displaying his invincible might like a great sword immortal from ancient times, suddenly fell to the ground with a loud crash. The moment Yu Yuan fell, everyone felt as if the towering mountain that had blocked them when they were alive had suddenly collapsed. Li Yu sighed and said, "My cultivation base is too low. I can't maintain that sword intent for a long time." Chapter 96. The soul orb flew into the sky. However, the tens of thousands of green dots fled in all directions like fireflies in the night. He didn't know where to go with the soul-sacrificing sphere that Li Yu was controlling. In the blink of an eye, the tens of thousands of green dots had disappeared. Because of the soul orb, the moon demon didn't choose to find a new puppet to attach to after losing Feng Xian's body. Instead, he chose to flee. The powerful moon demon hadn't expected that the trial takers of the fallen moon forbidden zone would have such a refined Selim soul. The moon demon knew that the mysterious ancient sword intent wouldn't be able to exert much power even if it was branded in the trial taker's body. Thus, the moon demon had nothing to fear. Even though the moon demon was imprisoned, he still knew that the Silver Moon Empire would hold a trial every once in a while. The trial takers were all young people of the Silver Moon Empire, and it was almost impossible for any of them to reach the subtle realm. Liu had reached the breaking profound realm, and that was already the limit. Without reaching the subtle realm, it was very difficult to gain the acknowledgement of the ancient sword intent. Even if one did, without a refined soul, it was very difficult to control the sword intent or communicate with the sword soul within. The moon demon had been his enemy for thousands of years, so he knew better than anyone how terrifying that sword intent was. It was because it was so terrifying and powerful that it was so difficult to control and wield a sword. The moon demon had never expected that there would be an anomaly like Yu Yuan among the trial takers. He, who had used the extreme intelligent soul-forging art to refine his Selim soul with the help of the white paper fan, had become an accident. The ancient sword intent had sensed the refinement of his Selim soul, which was why it had fused into his body and branded itself in his arm, allowing him to wield a sword. Liu, Yenlu, and Zhang Tianxiang hadn't reached the subtle realm yet, so they hadn't had time to refine their three souls. They had only been able to affect the other moon demons with the help of items. They hadn't used their own strength. With such items, it was even more impossible for them to gain the acknowledgement of the ancient sword intent. If it weren't for the ancient sword intent, the moon demon wouldn't have feared the trial takers of the Forbidden Zone. However, something unexpected had happened. Yu Yuan's existence had disrupted the moon demon's plan. The moon devil that escaped will appear again. Liu was very calm. He signaled Su Yan, Zhang Tianxiang, and Zhao Yafu to protect Yu Yuan, who was lying on the ground. He just used too much energy and fainted temporarily. Seeing the tens of thousands of green lights fly away, the trial takers who had dodged the calamity heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, they were grieving. Beside them lay the corpses of their companions. The deceased were all comrades of the same age as them. Feng Xian, who had been possessed by the moon devil, had fallen from the sky and pierced through their bodies. "How are you?" Liu turned his head and looked at Yenlu. Yenlu's short rod, which the moon devil called the soul-splitting rod, had pierced through his abdomen. At this moment, the short gold and silver rod had returned to his hand. The wound on his abdomen had also been bandaged after applying ointment. "I won't die, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to fight in the short term." Yenlu's face was pale, but his eyes were filled with determination and fearlessness. "I didn't expect that I would encounter such a great test from the moon demon during this trial. As long as I don't die, I'll definitely be able to enter the profound shattering stage." "Liu, what about the moon demon?" Lin Zhuyun asked softly. "The moon demon was seriously injured by your fiancé." As Liu spoke, he looked at Yu Yuan and said, "It's all thanks to Yu Yuan. If he hadn't come, no one would have been able to stop the moon demon." After a pause, he added, "I wouldn't have been able to stop it either." Upon hearing those words, all of the survivors naturally turned to look at Yu Yuan, who had already fainted. Only now did they understand Zhang Tianxiang and Han Hui's foresight, and they admired their vision and determination. Who would have thought that the person who could turn the tide, restrain the moon demon, and lead everyone to survival wasn't Liu, the strongest of the young generation in the Empire, but Yu Yuan from Dark Moon City? How could a 17-year-old boy from the tiny Yu clan of Dark Moon City become so different? "I know. It's all thanks to him. Lin Zhuyun bowed her head slightly, her emotions complicated. Without him, the moon demon who relied on Feng Xian could have killed all of us. Perhaps Li Yu didn't mean it, but he had heard of the legend between her and Yu Yuan, so when he mentioned Yu Yuan, he said that he was her fiancé. However, after everything that had happened, when she heard the word fiancé, she felt that he was mocking her and the entire Lin clan. How could such a Yu Yuan not be worthy of the Lin clan and her, Lin Zhuyun? The Lin clan and Lin Zhuyun had desperately tried to force the Yu clan to break off the engagement, saying that the foolish young master of the Yu clan wasn't qualified. Such a Yu Yuan, who was only in the spirit-nurturing stage, had used an ancient sword intent to disrupt the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, tear apart Feng Xian's flesh, and severely injure the moon demon in the Forbidden Lands trial. Earlier on, Yu Yuan was also the one who had exposed Zhu Huan's identity and died. The moon demon that had escaped from Lu Ling's body had also been killed by Yu Yuan. Not to mention anything else, just the trial in the Forbidden Land. Yen Lu, Fan Li, and even Li Yu, who had contributed more than Yu Yuan? Who had Yu Yuan's insight to see through Zhu Huan's identity. Such a Yu Yuan really wasn't worthy of the Lin clan and Lin Zhuyun. Lin Zhuyun's heart was filled with bitterness. She felt that the more outstanding Yu Yuan's performance was, the greater the humiliation to the Lin clan and her. She couldn't help but feel that the way other people looked at the Lin clan and her was filled with deep meaning and malicious mockery and ridicule. The moon demon's soul didn't disperse. It fled in a hurry because the soul sacrificial orb can restrain it. Li Yu's tone was heavy. The moon demon will find a new puppet. The next time we meet, it could be a new moon demon. After suffering a loss, the moon demon will be even more cautious when it appears again. There's one more thing. The moon demon is constantly growing stronger. When the moon demon reappears, it may be even more terrifying than when it was in Feng Xian's body. I wonder how Yu Yuan's condition will be at that time. By saying this, it meant that Li Yu had already admitted that the heavy responsibility of killing the moon devil had fallen on Yu Yuan. Yu Yuan's life or death, and the extent of his recovery, would determine whether or not they could survive in the Forbidden Land. I didn't think that my life or death would be decided by Yu Yuan, not me. Fan Li of the Fan clan laughed self-deprecatingly and shook his head. How laughable! The others also thought the same. Li Yu was slightly displeased. Fan Li, do you have any objections? No. If you have any objections and don't want to come with us, you can leave by yourself. Li Yu wasn't polite to him at all. To be honest, everyone did their best in the previous battle. You were the only one who didn't use your full strength. From what I know of you, your strength is far greater than this. Su Yan, Yen Lu, and Lin Zhuyun all frowned slightly when they heard this. How serious were Yen Lu's injuries? Su Yan quietly went to protect Yu Yuan, and Lin Zhuyun joined forces with Li Yu to restrain Feng Xian for a while. In contrast, Fan Li only protected himself with his spiritual armor. When the moon demon completely locked onto Yu Yuan, he secretly let out a sigh of relief and stayed out of the battle. It seemed that Fan Li's heart wasn't with the team. Fan Li was shocked. He hadn't expected to become the target of everyone. There won't be a next time. When the moon demon reappears, I will do my best. Fan Li hurriedly declared. I will enter the shattering profound realm when the moon demon reappears. Lin Zhuyun took a deep breath and then said to Su Yan, next time, I will personally protect Yu Yuan before he makes the final attack. He's your fiancé. If you want protection, of course I'll give it to you, Su Yan said with a smile. Lin Zhuyun's heart trembled when she heard the word fiancé. She had a feeling that Su Yan was cursing someone. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.